Hello and welcome to the stream. I'm back again. Can you believe it? Here I am. We're gonna play some Destiny. Hi. Let's get into it. I was debating on if I wanted to do some more Blender stuff or if I wanted to do some Destiny, and I honestly couldn't decide because both sounded pretty appealing in different ways. So I flipped a coin. Not just once. I flipped it like, I think 7 times. Right? Or was it... Let's see. I think I flipped it at least 5 times. You know? I wanted to give each one a good chance, you know? And Destiny won. Destiny won by a good margin, and then I gave it a few more flips, and it still won. So I was like, all right. Pretty decisive victory. Sometimes I get too caught up in trying to decide things. So I sit there and I don't do things, and I should do them. Because I get too indecisive about it. So I, sit there and sit there and sit there. So sometimes I just go, okay, well, you know what? If I can't decide, let me just leave it up to chance and flip a coin, and whatever it is, I'll do it, And it's been actually pretty effective to get me to just do stuff. Because it's never like a big decision. Like if I actually had to make a big decision, I wouldn't flip a coin. I'd actually decide and, think about it and be smart about it and stuff. But like if it's literally just like, it's always just something stupid that I have trouble deciding. Like what game am I gonna play tonight? Anyone notice they changed the music for intro to Destiny? Like the home screen has a different song. I thought I noticed it the other day and then wasn't too sure. Totally understandable with the indecisiveness. Yeah, a lot of the time I also just I sit around and I don't do things when I should. It's a number of things, It's like part of it is like hold on, it hasn't muted the game audio. Where's my... Okay, there we go. It wasn't loading Destiny for a second there. Alright, transition that. I thought it was still the Lightfall intro. I think they changed it. I don't know why. But I think they changed it to a new song. I noticed it the other day when I logged in to do story stuff. And then just now, although the audio was muted, it was a bit different, so I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's I spend so much time just doing, like, I would say like almost less than nothing. It's like you could sit and do nothing and just be alone with your thoughts, and I feel like it's effective in some ways. Or you can sit there on your phone, and I feel like in some ways that's less. That's even less than nothing. And I will often find myself, in that doom scrolling loop, where I just sit there on my phone, and it's usually YouTube for me. I just sit and scroll through YouTube videos, and just don't ever stop. Just gonna go ahead and pull the Witch's keys from the season pass, just so they're not sitting there on my screen all the damn time. Those voices, though. I think it's important to meditate. I think people take the word meditate in a very weird way. They always had like a very like Buddhist or otherwise religious perspective on it, and I think meditation at its core is literally just like just sit and be alone with your thoughts for a little while and really think, and just don't do what you do on a daily basis, which is just brush past all the brush away all the thoughts that come to mind, but instead welcome the thoughts and be like, hey, what the hell is going on? what are we doing here, fellas? That kind of thing. Like, what we got going on here? It's a much healthier way to deal with things, and it's good to do it every once in a while. Not all the time, maybe. I think people get too caught up in it. They make it a routine, and I don't know. Maybe your therapist will say that you should meditate every day for an hour or something stupid, but I feel like it's just more like, hey, you got a lot on your mind, try to just think about it every once in a while. Like, actually sit and think about it instead of just not do that, But I totally get the what's the word? The opposite of desire. What would you call that? What's the word for that? The hesitance, the resistance, I guess, to it. Aversion. That's the word, man. At least one of many words I could probably use there. But I can understand your aversion to all that. It makes sense, I get it. I totally agree most of the time. But it's important every once in a while to do it. That's why I feel like it's almost better to do that than just to sit there and doom scroll, Funky Galileo. Did I look at the Bright Dust store this week? I did, didn't I? Yeah. Yeah, there's some alright stuff here. Nothing too crazy. Some good shaders. If you don't have these shaders, this one was in that bundle. It's a pretty good one if you like the colors on it. Which means, for the record, that the shader from this bundle will be available for Bright Dust next season. So if you've been thinking, oh, maybe I should buy that bundle, just don't. You don't have to. They're also going to sell the ornament for Lemon Arc. They've been doing this past few seasons. I bought the first few bundles thinking that these shaders were not going to be obtainable anywhere else. And lo and behold, the next season, for every single bundle, the next season they would sell the shader and the ornament. And the only thing that wouldn't come with it is the ghost projection. Ooh, the ghost projection. Everybody cares so much about the ghost projection. Anyway, sorry, little rant. I'm crazy. Also, all my stuff should be working right now. The text-to-speech should be working. I tested it before I started stream, so it should be working. And I also tested tits should be working fine. Let's just double check. Yep, there you go. It's working fine. I'm pretty sure. Should be anyway. It might have to be part of the routine for me to open BikuBot and go through all that trouble of enabling a certain thing, and every single time I open it. So I've been away for a bit. What do you think of the state of Destiny right now? State of Destiny, with all the drama that happened recently with the layoffs. I say drama. I feel like that puts it a little lightly. Like that puts it on like YouTuber drama. You know, that word has like connotation to it that makes it seem so lighthearted and unimportant. People lost their jobs. I don't want to downplay that. It's I think that it's a scummy thing that Bungie did as a company, and I hate that. By the way, new Amazon Prime rewards if you didn't already have it. It actually comes with a good emote, but I already had the emote, so you won't see it here. And the shader is new, completely unique. To that, we were looking at it the other day. Really good shader, actually. I've seen a lot of people dripping out on Destiny r/Destiny fashion on Reddit. It's a good shader. And I made a funny video about it on my YouTube channel. A little plug there. Just the Highlander shader. It's the Highlander shader, guys. Anyway. I mean, you just have to redeem the Amazon Prime reward. Oh, and of course the Noble Steed Sparrow. Definitely haven't gotten that 50,000 times. The Soondrash Experiment 13R. This is actually probably one I haven't gotten yet, because I don't recognize that name at all. Anyway, oh yeah, and it also comes with the, if you're curious about what emote it is, I definitely recommend it. It's actually a good emote. And it's literally Prime rewards. So if you have Amazon Prime, it's free, basically. It's this emote. This is such a good one. I think I paid Bright Dust for it way back when. May have actually paid silver. This was a long while back. It's just a good one, you know? Just a good shader. Or a good ornament. What the hell am I trying to say? A good emote. And you get it for free now. So, huge. As long as you're paying it money to, you know, your monthly tax to a giant conglomerate company that owns half the world. You know, the usual. Speaking of giant companies that own way more than they should, I don't know. The whole thing about what happened with Bungie, I've talked about it before on stream, but to summarize, I hate what they did. I think it's awful. I think it's terrible. But I don't blame Bungie, the developers. I blame Bungie, the company, because, surprise, surprise, it is a company. And the only thing that companies ever care about doing at their core is making money. Any company, any corporation, any organization, anything at all, no matter what they say, no matter what they do, their only real motivation in this world is to make money and to profit in any way that they can. And it sucks. It's like the worst thing that exists, because they make everything worse and everybody suffers except for the people who own these companies and who run the companies. It sucks. It's a terrible situation. I hate all of it. What are we supposed to do about it? Well, I don't know, man. If we'd have figured it out by now, then, I don't know, we wouldn't have to deal with it. But we haven't figured anything out just yet. People can't seem to agree. Some people defend these companies, you know, say that, like, well, you know, if you just worked hard enough and made your own company, you know, maybe you'd be making enough money. And I'm like, okay, cool. But, like, I don't want that. I just want, like, things to not suck. You know? I don't want to start another Amazon. I don't want to be a CEO of some big company and make billions of dollars. Now, if I was, I'd definitely be doing it in a way that wouldn't make me a billionaire. And see, that's the thing that people don't get is, like, there are no good billionaires. There are no good millionaires. Not a single one of those people has a good moral compass on them. And you should never listen to what they say, morally speaking. Like, sure, I'm sure Bill Gates gives a lot of money, but he's still a billionaire. Are we really going to pretend like he's not making money off the backs of, you know, all the orphans that are, like, slaving away on his, you know, electronic devices being made in other countries, you know, and the lithium mines? Can we talk about the lithium mines for a second, you know? No, I say, can we talk about it? I don't want to get into it because this is a whole rabbit hole that is just the longer you go down that path, the longer you start discussing that kind of stuff, the more depressing it gets, the more frustrating it gets. So the whole thing about what happened with Bungie is just a microcosm. As big as it is a microcosm of what's been going on in the Western world for years. Why are all the movies that come out these days so terrible? Because they're trying to make money. And that's all they care about now. And occasionally you get a good one, sure. But even the best movies these days, even the best movies back in the day, are plagued by, corporate greed. So, like, game companies, movies, the movies industry, Hollywood, all of that. Even like modern art. You talk about, the corruption of like AI and all this stuff. Everything is just in a state where it is being manipulated at every step by people who are so out of touch with reality and whose only goal it is to make as much money as possible. And they are in charge of every single major corporation and minor corporation, just every corporation ever. And at its core, anybody with a real moral compass and good intentions and a human heart that actually beats and isn't a solid block of ice in their chest, anybody like that who owns a company isn't profiting all that much. It's just the way it is. You are either making profits or you are a good person. There's like no in between, because we reward that with the way our society runs. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling, and this is like pseudo political, right? I know this is like a touchy subject because some people will try to argue with it and say that it's a political issue, when in reality it's not political at all. It's just the reality we live in, and it's incredibly sad and depressing. And if you think it's political, it's just objectively wrong, So I don't blame the developers. I feel like Bungie themselves, like as the people who are trying to make the game, right? They want to make the game. I feel like there's still a sentiment there. I feel like there's still people there. Even if there's less. And even the people who left have said what we made, like, we're proud of. We were excited for you to play it. We want people to play it, and we still have friends who are working there on this thing that we were making, and we want you to play it. But the situation itself sucks. And that's, the issue at hand, I don't blame Bungie, the developers, but I do blame Bungie, the corporation, the company, I think that whoever's in charge of this garbage is a total douchebag and should be, let's not go that far. He doesn't deserve anything he has. I don't believe he's worked a day in his life. I won't believe it for a second, no matter what his sob story is. I don't care if he says that he grew up on the streets and didn't have a mother or father. It's because it's just a lie, first of all, probably. Second of all, Anyway, sorry, that's like a weird tangent. I don't know why I'm going that way. I have no sympathy for somebody who makes that much money. I just do not. Because they are directly, negatively impacting the lives of so many people, right? And, we've been complaining about the game, and we've been wanting the game to just be better for so long. And now that all these people have left, we're hearing all these horror stories about, what it was like trying to just reduce the microtransactions in the games. I mean, have you heard about this stuff? It wasn't the developer's fault. They were trying, man. They've been trying for a long time, and big surprise, they've been held back by the douchebags in power who don't even do anything. They don't even do anything. You can't even say that they run the company, because the company runs itself, dude. I'm sure there are like 100 committees and stuff that make all the real decisions financially. You got all these different departments. So what's the guy at the top doing? Oh, he's just listening to all of them? Is he making any decisions? Yeah, probably all the worst ones. Does he know what he's talking about? No. Does he deserve all the money he's getting? No. And, you know, it's probably not just one guy. It's probably it probably is the committee that's making all the decisions. I don't know. It's a scummy situation, and I hate all of it. And I've talked about my disdain for my disdain for major companies a lot before. I don't think this is a political issue. I think this is just a problem that we need to figure out and solve as a people, as the human race. We need to overcome this issue. And people might say like, oh, this is capitalism. But the problem is, the moment we say that it's capitalism, you get all the people who are either radically pro-communism, which isn't quite what I want to support, but you also get a lot of the people coming out of the woodwork who are so radically anti-communism that it's like really cringe. Like, we fought wars over this stuff, you know? And you're like, okay, well, like, but, you know, can't things just be like a little bit better? You know? Like, there's got to be a line somewhere, you know? There's got to be a line, and we are just on the opposite end. We are currently on one end of the spectrum, and we could be right in the middle of the spectrum if we like tried to improve things in our culture. But I feel like we are on one end of the spectrum, and some people really, really, really want us to be on the opposite end of the spectrum, and some people really, really want us to stay on this side of the spectrum for some stupid reason. When in reality, we probably want to be somewhere in the middle. I don't know. I think politically speaking, any society, any culture, you need to have a balance of capitalist values and like communist values and socialist values, and all of those different kinds of things kind of bundled in a way that benefits everybody, basically. And to say that one is the only way to go, I feel like it's just absurd. I think it's insane to think that only one is good, and yet we fought wars over this garbage, except we didn't even fight any damn wars. Like, what do we even do during the Cold War? Literally nothing. I don't know. It's goofy stuff. It's all goofy stuff. And, you know, I'm not qualified to talk about this, so, you know, take what I say with a grain of salt for sure, you know. But, like, anybody with eyes can see that the current way things are is not good. And what it could be as well is entirely dependent on what we try to make it. And yet, we are also in a position where what the hell can we even do about a lot of it, you know? Are we going to be able to stop these companies from buying all of the other companies and then having a monopoly on everything and then ruining the lives of everybody? Can we really do anything about that when the people in charge of our country right now are in the pockets of these major companies? You know, like, I don't know. It's all frustrating. And again, the moment you start talking about it, it sounds like you have some sort of political agenda. I'm not a communist. I'm not a capitalist. I'm just trying to figure things out, man. If I had to label myself as anything, which I don't want to, I would say I'm a centrist, purely because I don't want to align myself with anything, right? You could say moderate as well, I guess. But I know those also have connotations, and my idea is that I have no connotations. That I'm just trying to figure out what's right and what's working and what makes sense, you know? And I hate all of what's happening. And yet, despite all of this, I don't blame the developers. Again, I blame the company. Whoever that is, everybody in charge of that company, I don't exclude any of them. I blame all of them. Every single one. Now, not everybody part of the company, but everybody in charge of the company. I blame all of them. They are the scum of the earth. Honestly, I wish we could live in a world without people like that, but instead we have to deal with it. It's frustrating. I don't know. But that's my whole spiel. I think the situation sucks. I feel sorry for all the people who lost their jobs. Because, again, something I've said before, they literally did a good job and got fired anyway. That is the epitome of a bad company. When you get fired for doing your job well, it is the company's fault for firing you. If you do a bad job, if you suck at your job, or if you do the wrong job, that's all grounds for firing. But the developers were all doing a good job. If you look at the people who were fired, maybe some of them weren't. I don't know. I don't know if all of them were doing a great job. But, like, I mean, an obvious example, Michael Salvatore, how in the hell are you going to say he didn't do his job? How in the hell are you going to say that he didn't do a good job? What? How? How could you ever come to that conclusion? We kept the right people, he says. We kept the right people. Mr. Man. I have worked for some soulless companies before. I've been very hesitant to work for some versus others because I know that they're just more soulless than others, you know? And yet, I know for a fact that these people exist. I've come across so many managers who just are so soulless, and they just, like, they exude this air of, like, oh no, I really care about you. This really manipulative air of, like, no, we really care about you. We're a family here. And then the moment, like, anything negative happens at all, and they're talking to you, and they're, like, scolding you, or, like, very kindly scolding you, like, giving you warnings, and the whole time you're just like, go shove it, dude. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? It's crazy that these people exist, and yet they are the ones in power, you know? They are the ones actually doing things, you know? Making all the major decisions in our world. Can you believe that? Can you believe those guys? Those guys. They're the ones who are making all the decisions for us in the world right now. What a bunch of scumbags, dude. I don't know. It's an incredibly frustrating situation. I hate all of it. I hate every little bit of it. Because you hear about all of the terrible things that happened at Bungie, you know, while people were there. Now, you know, it's not Blizzard, so there's no sexual misconduct stuff, at least not to our knowledge, you know, hasn't come out yet. But that doesn't mean they're not a bunch of scumbags running it, you know? Honestly, I wish there were sexual misconduct things, as terrible as that sounds, because then at least there'd be a chance of these people getting fired. But no, these douchebags in power are just going to stay in power and keep ruining all of our games. Here's what's got me so heated, man. Like, you might be sitting there going like, man, I don't know what the hell this gnome is just chattering on and on and on about. Like, this is what's got me so heated. I've said this before as well, and I will say it as many times as I need to. Destiny is literally my favorite game. And it's not because I'm addicted. I might make jokes about it. Other people might make jokes about being addicted to Destiny, and I get that. There have been definitely a lot of times where I felt FOMO. But I don't come back because of FOMO. I know some people do, and that's you know, whatever. That's a different topic. I get the FOMO. I understand it. But that's not why I like Destiny. I like Destiny because I like Destiny. I play Destiny because I like Destiny. I don't like any game nearly as much as I like Destiny. Not even close, dude. I have tried other games that are, in air quotes, similar to Destiny, and none of them have appealed to me in the same way. Not a single one, dude. Not a single one. Never once has a game ever appealed to me in the same way as Destiny. So, for me to be in this situation where I love this game more than any other game, it is so frustrating to me that I feel like every few weeks we get some ridiculous drama, some major setback in the game. I mean, just think of the entire turbulent history of Destiny, start to finish. Destiny 1. All of the stuff that happened with Destiny 1. I mean, the release. Everybody's so hyped. It drops. Everybody's playing it. And it's kind of bad. We're like, what the hell happened? Like, there's no story. And I loved the game anyway. I loved it anyway. I was proud to love the game because I felt a major attachment. It was the game for me, man. It checked every single box I've ever wanted from a game. It was an MMO, it was an RPG, it was an FPS, all of the acronyms I wanted. It was it was a very social game. It had multiplayer, it had single player, it had cooperative play, which is like my favorite thing ever. I love when there's a game where I can play with other people and instead of fighting each other, we work together to do a thing. That to me is just so much fun. Any idea like that, And it's like, okay, I've tried World of Warcraft. I didn't like it because it was like this weird third person thing. I've tried like Guild Wars, similar thing. Didn't like it either. I've played a little bit of RuneScape. I played, I've played, whatchamacallit. I've played like Borderlands. Holy hell, so many people would compare Destiny to Borderlands. I swear the only similarities were that you can change different perks on your guns and that numbers popped up when you did damage. Those were the only things, dude. I swear there's no similarities between these two games. I'm sure there are other similarities, but it was so vastly different. The environments of Destiny, I've seen post-apocalyptic, I've seen sci-fi, I've not seen it in the same way that Destiny does it. I haven't seen it anywhere else. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. Like Anthem and like Outriders, I think there was Outriders. There were like one or two other like quote unquote Destiny killers. Warframe. None of these just catch the appeal in the same way as Destiny. They're not the same. They're not the same. And all throughout its history, people have been against it. People have hated it. People have dunked on it. People have made fun of it. And all the way, I've been here, But it did get to me at one point. I stopped playing when Destiny 2 dropped. When Destiny 2 came out, I was excited. I played the beta. I was like, it's still kind of good. And then I stopped playing when the game came out. I played Red War. I must have done the campaign like 3 times because I had to do it on like my characters on console, and then I moved to PC and had to do it again on those ones. And I was so done with the Red War. It was so boring. The plot wasn't really as good. I mean, it was nice that there was a plot, but it just wasn't as good as it could have been. I think people really look at Red War with rose-tinted glasses. 100%. People really think of it too highly, right? And it was so frustrating because we went from Rise of Iron to Red War. Rise of Iron, dude. I'm not going to say that it was the best thing in the world, but like not King's Fall, but the expansion came from. Whatever that expansion was, I can't think of the name for some reason. It came out and Taken King. What the hell is wrong with me, dude? Taken King came out and it revolutionized the game. All of the other expansions didn't really do anything. They added stuff. I loved the game anyway. I loved what Destiny was at its core. I loved its heart. I loved its soul, right? Everything else was just nice. It was like, okay, new expansion, House of Wolves, Wrath of Crota or whatever it was called. I can't remember what the original thing was called. What the expansion was. The one that brought Crota's End, right? All of that stuff was cool, but it was peripheral. It was additional to me. It was good. Like, it was all good stuff. But I liked the game at its core. I loved patrols, dude. Back in Destiny 1, I loved just mindlessly running around, killing stuff with my favorite weapons. Just, it was nice. It was satisfying. I liked that. That's all I did in the beta, dude. That's literally all I did in the beta. And that's what made me fall in love with the game. Back in the day, so long ago. I've told the story before. The guy who gave me the nickname Carnum years ago, again, this is a long story with a long story with a long story. The guy who gave me the nickname Carnum so many years ago, I kind of lost touch with him for a little bit. One day, I see him, we're talking, hanging out. He tells me I got to check out this game. I'm like, awesome. I'll add you on Xbox. We both get on Xbox 360 for the record. And he's like, yeah, this game's so cool. We're going around. It's literally just Destiny 1 beta. It's out for like 2 more days. I end up playing it for like one day. I spend like a lot of time in the character customization. Little did I know how little that mattered. And then played like a tiny bit, barely anything. And then the second day I played with him. I'm having a blast. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm excited by the upgrade of the skill tree, in the subclass tree, the fact that I can get a second throwing knife. That was the coolest thing to me at the time. I thought that was awesome, that I could get a second throwing knife. You guys remember that? You guys remember? It was different. It was a different time, It was a different time. And I was in high school, I was maybe enamored with the game. Maybe there was another game I would have fallen in love with. But, like, I just don't think that would have been the case. I think, I think it was different. I was so sad. I was distraught. I didn't know it was that kind of beta. The only beta I'd ever played for a game before that was the Minecraft beta, which, if you know anything about that, it was basically just Minecraft. It was Minecraft, and it lasted for like a year or 2 or 3 or 4. It just kept going, and they kept calling it the Minecraft beta, even though it was basically just the game. And then finally they officially released the game, and it was just a normal update. It was just an update, but they called it Minecraft 1.0 or whatever, right? And that was my experience with game betas. So when I'm playing the Destiny 1 beta with this friend of mine who gave me a nickname that I have now turned into a whole different persona now, right? I've turned into something totally different now. I'm playing this game, and I'm thinking, man, I can't wait to play more of this thing. And then the beta ends, and I'm depressed. I'm so sad. I'm like, I gotta play more of this game. And then it finally comes out. I'm not able to go to the midnight release because, like, I'm in high school and my mom's got rules about that kind of thing. I'm so upset about that, honestly. Whenever I think about it, I'm like, man, that would have meant so much to me at the time. I was upset I didn't get the pre-order bonus Sparrow because I didn't have any money for myself. And my mom was super against me playing the game because I was literally obsessed with this game. I don't know if you guys realize how obsessed I was with Destiny 1. If you talk to anybody who knew me in that time period about how I was, what I talked about, they would probably mention that I talked a lot about Destiny 1. Of course, at the time, I just called it Destiny because that's all it was at the time. I was obsessed with that game. And I have since been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. I don't know if that's related. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not really sure how it works sometimes. I'll be honest. I loved Destiny 1. It meant the world to me. It was a completely different experience from anything else I had ever seen. It was such a major thing in my life. It really meant a lot. And yet people complained about every little thing in that game. All the time. Every little thing. But it was all like, it was good, in a good way. Here's what I liked about Destiny 1. It was a small community, right? It was a small community by a big developer, right? Bungie was a top dog. They had sold Halo to 343, but they were still the Halo makers. They were the guys who made Halo. They had this good reputation. And they were known for it, right? And but when they released Destiny, You know what every single review said? It said it kind of sucked. They didn't like the story. The gameplay was repetitive. It was boring. The loot was random, so, it could be frustrating to grind for hours and hours and not get anything. Does this all sound familiar, first of all? Second of all, that, it sifted people out, is what it did. It took all of the gamer bros who just, liked that Call of Duty and, wanted to just go shoot each other, It sifted out all the people who just wanted to compete. It sifted out all the people who just wanted to be cynical and upset all the time. And they all quit the game after trying it or seeing the bad reviews. I swear, there were so many bad reviews back in the day. And then I stuck with it. I stayed. I was there. I remained, And the people you met while playing that game were some of the best people you'd ever meet. I swear. It was truly like one of the best communities I've ever been a part of. The Destiny 1 community back in the day. And then Taken King comes out. And suddenly Destiny's actually good. It's never been good. Not really. It was everything I wanted from a game. But then suddenly it was actually pretty good. And then Rise of Iron comes out and just keeps the cycle going. And it's this is still pretty good. And they had so much momentum they were working with. They were doing so well. And at that point, I was actually playing the game. I was finally just playing the game, whether my mom liked it or not. I had my own Xbox. I had my own copy of the game. There was a lot of stuff about my mom really, really was trying to keep me focused on school. And I would just play the game so much. It was all I ever thought about, all I ever talked about. I was obsessed with the game for 4 years, dude. And I exhausted everybody with my interest in Destiny. Truly, I don't think anybody cared about that game as much as I did at the time. And then I started playing Overwatch. And then Destiny 2 came out. And I stopped. Because it wasn't the game that I played anymore. Because they marketed it towards everybody who... They marketed it as a competitive game. They marketed it as a PvP-centric game. They marketed it as everything that Destiny wasn't at its core. The PvP in Destiny 1 was far from competitive. I mean, you could compete, for fun. But it wasn't competitive. It wasn't meant to be. It was supposed to be fun, right? That's all it was. Just silly. And then but then they made all these changes to accommodate for a more serious gaming audience. Problem was, they didn't appeal to the people who actually stuck around and played the game like I did. They weren't appealing to me. Suddenly, all the weapons had static rolls. Suddenly, all of the weapons that weren't primary weapons were heavy weapons. All of them. Suddenly, the subclasses weren't completely customizable. Instead, it was these stupid little globs of subclass trees. You'd select one, and it would give you set specific abilities and stuff. It was so much more restrictive, so much more limited. There's no build crafting. There's no customization. There's nothing, man. There's nothing. And on top of it, our stuff was gone. And they joked about it in the trailer. And I hated that. I hated that line that Cade said, "Your stuff, my stuff, it's all gone." They're joking about it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So all of my favorite things about the game are gone now. Literally, I remember playing the beta, and I remember talking to people. I'm like, you know what? I think the best thing they added, besides the graphic updates, is the mantling. When you miss a ledge and you get a mantle like that. That was the one change that they made to Destiny 2 that I actually liked. Literally the only thing. They could have kept the graphics as bad as they were on Xbox 360. I wouldn't care, dude. I wouldn't care at all. If they kept our weapons, if they didn't vault all that content, like, it's just, it's so, it was so aggravating. It felt like a slap in the face to every real Destiny player, everybody who actually played the game and cared about the game. It felt like such a slap in the face. The whole release of Destiny 2. I hated it so much. I was so frustrated. And I quit out of anger and frustration. I quit because I was just like, I'm not playing this. There's no passion. There's no reason to play anymore. And other people, like, who never played Destiny 1 or only played like a little bit would come back and be like, no, Red War was so good though. It had like a really good plot line. When it came out, people criticized the plotline for so many reasons. Like, do we not remember these reviews, people? Do we not remember how we really felt when these things happened? It was so underwhelming to fight Gaul. It was so underwhelming. The speech that the speaker gave before he got tortured to death by Gaul, it was so lame. It wasn't even good, dude. It was terrible. It was so bad. And yet I've seen people actually like quote it as if it was like a major thing that they cared about so much. I'm like, I've never seen glasses that are so rose tinted as when people talk about how good Red War was. Good God, man. If you actually look back at that time, if you actually went back in time and replayed all that stuff, you would remember how terrible it was. And if you thought that was peak Destiny, then you never really played Destiny 1. I don't know. I look at Destiny 1 with a lot of nostalgia too. I'm going to admit that a lot. But I can also acknowledge that it was pretty terrible. It was kind of a bad game. Even after Taken King, it was a pretty bad game. It was not up to snuff with most MMO RPGs. It just wasn't. It was missing a lot of MMO elements. It was missing a lot of RPG elements. And you know what? Later on, they would add those things to Destiny 2. Eventually, they would add those things to Destiny 2. But that was literally, like, within the past 3 years that they added some of that stuff, you know? Like, that was real recent. Destiny was not a good game for a long time. But you know what it was? Despite all of it, it was my favorite game. It was my favorite game. Ever. I've never loved a game as much as Destiny. And it's felt so good to be back. You know, it's felt so good to be back in the game. But it is pure agony to watch this game die. It really is. I don't know, man. I don't think it's dead, but I feel like it's just been one thing after another, you know? Let me read your comment before I forget. Also, what's up? Hi. Sorry, I'm rambling. I'm in rant mode. I remember playing D1 Beta back in 2014, going to the moon for the first time, and spent so much time playing the beta. It was surreal for me, and really one of the games that I really fell in love with. There are really only 2 other games that I've ever kept going back to. That's Destiny and Diablo. And see, that's the thing for me, is the only other 2 games that I've ever truly like obsessed over was Halo 4 for a little while. I was obsessed with like the Capture the Flag and other game modes like that. Mostly Capture the Flag though. I really like Capture the Flag. In big team battle, it was really, really fun. And I've really been longing for that experience of having a huge big team battle style PvP Capture the Flag game mode for some game. And I've been kind of dying for it to be injected into one of the many other games that I've played. And of course, the only one that's ever done it right has been Halo. So, I don't know. Like, Destiny had a pretty terrible Capture the Flag mode. We all know how terrible it is. Overwatch had a Capture the Flag game mode that they just treated as like a joke. It's like they never even tried to make it good. Super cringe, dude. I mean, I'm very upset with how it all turned out. And see, that was the thing. I left Destiny because it got bad. It got worse than it had ever been. because they had made progress. Like when Destiny 1 came out, it was like the Starfield at the time. Like honestly, Starfield is the new Destiny 1. Right? Or not Starfield, sorry. No Man's Sky. Jeez, not Starfield. Starfield's still terrible. It's just another Bethesda game. I'm sure it's fun if you like Bethesda games, but I don't really care for it. But no, it was the original No Man's Sky. It came out in a bad state. Most people left, didn't play it ever. And then it got updates. And then it got good. And now it's like looked at and revered at like it was this monumental great thing, and that it can really, it really brought itself together and it really turned itself around. People think so highly of Destiny 1, even though I would say currently Destiny 2 as a game, just as a game, Destiny 2 is much better than Destiny 1 has ever been at any point. I think the people with the Destiny 1 nostalgia that will tell you otherwise are delusional. I would say, though, Destiny 1 at its end was miles ahead of Destiny 2 at its start. Which is why I hated Destiny 2 so much when it came out. I repeatedly tried to get back into Destiny 2. I really, really tried. And I just couldn't, But it's been such a turbulent history for Destiny, right? Like it got released, people hated it, most of the community left, and what community was left over really cared about the game, really, really, really cared about the game. And then Crota's End came out, like that whole expansion, and people thought it kind of sucked. The raid wasn't as good, it was less polished, there were so many damn glitches that to this day it's been known to be the easiest soloable raid ever in Destiny. And then House of Wolves came out. People hated House of Wolves. I liked it for a lot of reasons. I liked all of the expansions for a lot of reasons. But, everybody hated House of Wolves. You know why people hated House of Wolves? Because it didn't have a raid. Because Dark Below had instilled this idea that every expansion would release with a raid. And instead of the raid, we got Prison of Elders. And you know what? Prison of Elders was damn good, dude. It was a great addition to the game. It was huge. It was awesome having this thing where it's just ad clear. And there's like some bosses here and there too, but it's just ad clear. And it was just fun. It was difficult. It was hard to beat, but in a good way, right? At least at the time, in a good way, right? And yet people hated it at the time. People were really ragged on it at the time because it didn't have a raid. It's a sucky expansion. Well, good riddance to you. Go stop playing the game. And they did. People actually stopped playing the game because House of Wolves didn't have a raid, and they missed out on some of the best content in the game. And then the real good expansion came out. The first one, Taken King, an actually good expansion. And then Rise of Iron. An equally good expansion. Now, I would say, some people have a lot of nostalgia for Taken King. Some people have a lot of nostalgia for Rise of Iron. I think they are equally good. Both of them are good at the same degree. It's just they came out at different times, right? If Rise of Iron came out, people would look at it in the same way they look at Taken King now. I'm just saying. If Rise of Iron came out first, that's how people would view it. Because Taken King was the expansion that saved Destiny. Because it had this reputation, and it had this feeling of like, well, they could do a lot with the game, but they just haven't really done it. It doesn't feel as polished. Taken King, they're like, all right, fine, here it is. Here's the substance. Here's the polish. Here's all the stuff you're looking for. And it was a banger, dude. It was so good. It was the first good expansion Destiny has ever had. And for that, people loved it. Because we all knew that Bungie could do it. We all knew it could happen. And they finally did with Taken King. And then Rise of Iron just kept it going. Rise of Iron was just the same goodness. The same level of quality. And then Destiny 2 came out. And it all fell apart. And then there were just countless legal things with Destiny 2. Activision Blizzard and its awful clutches over over the game and the company. I still to this day think that it's good that they got away from Activision Blizzard. As much as it sucks that Sony is probably going to do the same kind of terrible things to them, and other people will say, well, Bungie as a company is not much better. I agree, but Activision's worse. 100%. I will never believe that Activision is not a worse parent company. They're scum of the earth. I wish they didn't exist in the gaming space. They're as bad, if not worse, than EA. I don't like any of it. Terrible, terrible company. Awful people who run that. I don't like Activision Blizzard. I do not. Now, the games they make, they're very good games a lot of the time. Not all the time, actually. All the Blizzard games, of course, very good. Lots of the Activision games, very beloved. Good chunk of them, actually kind of garbage. And they don't care. The company doesn't care. The company's just looking for profits, right? And there's always that disconnect between developer and company. Now, the recent stuff has been like, well, this seems more like an issue with Bungie as a company, right? Like Bungie higher-ups, not so much, Sony higher-ups is kind of what it seems like. But I kind of don't buy that. I feel like a lot of what's going on there, it's definitely like Bungie as a company. They're higher-ups, right? I agree with that. But they're trying to impress Sony higher-ups is the problem. Like, you talk about the whole, like, well, it was 40% less revenue than they were expecting, or whatever the number was, right? Or the metric or whatever, right? Like, their projections were, like, 40% off or something for Lightfall and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, who made those projections? Are they being fired? Were they part of the group that got fired? Who insisted that those were the projections to Sony? And what did Sony say when those projections weren't correct? You know? I don't think it's entirely Bungie to blame. I feel like Sony definitely played a part, if not subtly or kind of in the background. Like, at the very least, Bungie higher-ups are trying to appeal to Sony for a lot of it. Now, whether that's going to ever come out as being the case, I think that's probably the case. I think it's pretty clear that they are trying to impress somebody with their crazy metric. We're going to make so much money from this expansion. And then they didn't make that much money from the expansion. Well, who are they promising to? Well, Sony. Duh. Their parent company. That's who they're promising to. Big surprise it didn't happen. And then, like, okay, well, they blame the developers for it. So let's just fire a bunch of the developers for it. It's scummy. It sucks. The whole situation sucks. But even before then, there's so many issues. It's just like, I hate seeing all of this. I hate seeing every little bit of it. Because, I get affected in the least important way. Because I am just a player, right? I play the game. That's it. I have no connection to the game or the company otherwise, right? So it's like, I have such a privileged perspective. The worst thing that happens to me is my video game's not as good. Like, what the hell am I complaining about? At the end of the day. Like, oh no, my video game that I spent all this money on. Oh no, it's maybe a little bit more expensive. And it's a little bit less fun to play. Okay, great complaint, buddy. Maybe don't play the game. Like, it's a pretty stupid thing to be upset about, right? Or it's a pretty stupid position for me to be in. To be talking about the game and what I want and all this stuff, right? It's kind of privileged in a way. Like, I have this privilege of not having to be affected. I wasn't fired by Bungie. I wasn't fired by them. Well, what did they do to me directly? What negative thing did the company do to me? Sorry, I am full-blown rant mode. Is anybody here watching this? Oh, man. How long have I been going, dude? Like an hour straight, dude. What the hell? I don't know. I feel like a jerk because, like, I'm sitting here complaining and I didn't even get fired. I wasn't one of the people. Now, I have sympathy and empathy and whatever other things you need to say, right? I feel for the people who lost their jobs. I've been fired before. on a very small scale. And I would be devastated if I worked essentially my dream job doing what I loved, and I did a good job, and then I got fired. I would feel every negative emotion under the sun, dude. I would feel every form of anger, every form of sadness and depression. I would feel so many things at the same time, dude. And I feel for these people. I really do. And yet here I am, I'm all I have to relate to them, really, my only connection to these people is that I play the game that they made. Which is like it's enough of a separation that what the hell does my opinion matter, right? But just to be selfish for a second, or I guess since I've been talking for about an hour, just to be selfish for a bit, right? This game is deserving of more. I just want the game to be good. I just want the game to be good for everybody. The developers, the people who play it, the content creators. I want everybody to be able to be happy with this game because it's had such a negative history for so long, and yet there's so much. I saw Moist Critical's video talking about all the layoffs and stuff. Sorry, it wasn't his video. It was a clip from his stream that somebody posted because he hasn't put out his own actual video on it. And I was a little frustrated because the way he talked about some of the stuff seemed like he didn't know a lot of the information. I know he only kind of plays the game here and there. And so it was a little frustrating to hear him talk about some of it as if Bungie, the developers, were the ones who laid themselves off, which was a little annoying. Not that he said that directly, but he kind of was mocking them for talking about the under delivery thing, and I don't know. There's a lot to say about that. I think there's more to it than just that classic quote. I think it's good. It's a good meme to point at and be like, well, they don't want to over deliver, blah blah blah, But I think weirdly, when you look at it in context of when that quote was said and what it was said about, it's actually not as crazy of a thing to say. Because, as much as we don't want or as much as we want a good game, it's also important to think well, we also want developers to not have to crunch for a deadline, We want developers to make a game that's good, but we don't want them to have to rush it out the door and get burnout and get, basically chastised for their company, or worse, put out a product and then get fired despite how good, it could have been. I don't know. I don't know. I find there no use to the conclusion of all of this should not be, well, Bungie sucks. No, it should be Bungie, the developers, are trying their best, given the circumstances presented to them by whoever's in charge. At one point in time, it was Activision Blizzard. At another point in time, it was just Bungie, the Bungie leads, right? Whoever was in charge of all this nonsense. And now it's Sony, whoever it is in charge, whether it's one person or a group of people, we can blame them. But I think it's important to not extend that blame to the people who are literally just trying to make a good game. Because from everything we've ever seen from this game, there's such a connection between the developers and the players, I feel, or at least the community as a whole and the developers. There's always been this more personal connection than a lot of games have. It's a bit of a unique thing that Destiny has. And not to say that no other game has it. Plenty of other games do, I'm sure. But we have it. And it's a unique thing. Not every game gets that, And I think that's why it hurts so much. I think that's part of why it happened. I saw that Dado, Bife, and Astacross all appeared on a podcast for a little segment with Skill Up. I've never heard of Skill Up. He was in one of Dado's videos. He had this one with this video of he did a stream with Joe Blackburn and Skill Up and like one other guy and who I can't remember the name of. They're all Destiny people, you know. And they did a little shader game. That's the first time I ever heard Skill Up's name. I didn't know he was a Destiny guy. I didn't know anything about him. But he has a podcast with other people, including the Completionist. And they hosted Dado Asked Across and Bife. And all three of them just, you know, talked about Destiny. And somebody brought up a really good point of like this very big closeness between the developers and the community. You know, there's this openness, this really talkative portion. And there have been points in time where they have been more silent and hesitant to talk to us. I remember, you know, of course, after the infamous Twilight Garrison episode, there was some tension, you know? There's less talking. But when that went away, you know, when things kind of got repaired, and before then, it was really open, really transparent. It was really good for the community. It was a huge thing. And now, hearing all this stuff about what happened to the people at the company, it feels terrible. It feels more personal than it really is, you know? It hurts to see it happen, right? So I don't know. I feel like I talked about a billion different things, all only tangentially related to this. My conclusion is just I love this game, and I don't think I could ever stop playing this game. Not because I'm addicted, not because I'm obsessed, you know, because I've been those things before. I think namely with Overwatch I've been those things, right? But Destiny is different. I'm addicted and obsessed, sure, potentially, but only because I really like this game a lot. And I want this game to stay in a good state. I want it to exist in its most perfect state possible. And unfortunately, we haven't really gotten that. I'm not sure if we ever will at this rate. And we've had to... The one thing that Critical has always said about Destiny that I agree with is that it has so much potential. It has more potential, I would say, than any other game I know of. They've got so much going for them. So much good stuff going for them. So much incredible stuff in this game. A masterclass of people making it. Now, maybe not so much anymore because they laid off so much of their staff. But really, they have everything going for them that they could possibly have going for them. And yet, all of that potential is still somehow being squandered. And there are a lot of things that mess with that, you know? There are a lot of things that get in the way. And I think it all almost always boils down to corporate greed, you know, from somebody. You know, whoever it is. Whoever it is that's in charge, that's ruining everything, you know? I hate to just blindly point a finger at something and say, well, surely it's the boogeyman that's causing all of these issues. But, like, genuinely, it's just what we're dealing with. There's some douchebag or a bunch of douchebags who just are ruining the show for everybody, you know? They're the guy who's sitting in the front row of the movie theater, standing up, staring at the screen, waving his arms around, screaming and yelling the whole time. And everybody else is just like, can you please just sit down and shut the hell up? You know? It's maybe not the best analogy, but you know what I mean. I don't know. I'm not going to stop playing Destiny because I don't want to leave Destiny. I want Destiny to stay. And yet, I feel like Destiny... sometimes just it almost doesn't want me to stay. Yes, Guardian. You know, I feel like the game doesn't reciprocate because the company doesn't want it to. like I'm one of my a very small thing that is one of my biggest complaints is the cosmetic stuff. I mean, look at this. Look at this garbage, dude. Look at all this. Why are they selling this stuff? Why is this stuff costing money? Now, we all know why. Duh. We all know why. It's for profit. Because idiots like me will buy anything. I've bought so much garbage in this game. I really have. I mean, literally, the armor set I'm wearing right now, everything except for the helmet and the class item, I paid for. I'm pretty sure I did spend Bright Dust on this, but I might have actually bought this ornament. This one I definitely spent Bright Dust on. You know? I paid for the expansions that all of my other gear came from. I will shell out so much stuff for this game. I really will. Now, the most recent ones I've only done it because I happened to have already bought silver like a long time ago that I still had. But I have acquired every single event pass because I didn't want to miss any of the shaders. I wanted those shaders. I was talking before about how I bought those weapon bundles with the ornament and shader attached to it that they sell for a higher price because they have the all-important ghost projection that everybody cares about so much. That is literally the least interesting thing you could possibly get in a bundle. But I wanted the shader and I wanted the ornaments. And so I bought the bundles only for them to be sold for Bright Dust later. I am the whale here, dude. I'm the whale. I'm the one spending the money. I'm the one that we should be complaining about and worrying about because I'm giving them this money. And I hate that. I hate feeling like I'm being punished because I want to enjoy my game. You know? I hate feeling like I'm the bad guy because I am contributing profit to the bad guy. It sucks, man. It sucks. I hate this. But like one of my biggest things in this game, one of the things that really drives, my desire to keep playing this game is the whole fashion game. Is the whole customization game. I know I run this armor set all the time on my hunter. I just think it's so funny, right? But like besides that, I love making armor sets, man. Let's just go through some of them. I got this one here. 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 Got this one here. I got this one here. And this one here. Similar to another one. And this one here. I'm also similar to another one. And I've made more. Those are just the ones that I happen to currently have saved temporarily until I have another set that I need to swap to. Right? It is one of the most paramount things. It always has been one of the most paramount things to me to design my character to look a certain way that appeals to me. I have always wanted that in a game. I've always desired that. And Destiny has provided me more control over that experience than I've ever wanted. Now, it used to be worse. It used to be a lot worse. And they made it better with Transmog. Yet another system that they implemented in kind of a poor way that everybody dunked on, and people still dunk on as if it's a bad system, when in fact it's probably the best system we've ever had for anything like this. The biggest problem with Transmog right now is the fact that armor costs money. And I hate that. One of my favorite things about this game gets you almost nowhere because you have to buy some of the best sets in the game. And some of them are time gated because they're like only available during like holiday events. Also, what's up, Yelena? I'm complaining, not complaining, but I'm ranting. You remember when they used to sell a full armor set, one piece at a time, each week? Some weeks it wouldn't sell a piece, but most weeks they'd sell one, like just the boots for Bright Dust, right? You guys remember when they did that? It wasn't that long ago, but they haven't done it in like 4 seasons. What happened? I wonder why they don't do that anymore. I wonder, it really makes you really makes you think. Carno think. I don't know, man. It's frustrating that, and what's most frustrating to me is that is the one thing that people don't complain about. I hate that argument of, and you've heard this before. Well, I don't mind microtransactions as long as it's only cosmetic. We've all heard that argument, right? We've all heard it. And that's understandable. I had that sentiment for a little while. And what they really mean when they say that is, as long as it's not pay to win, it's fine. And I agree that I don't want pay to win. But why are we also requiring buttloads of money and boatloads of money just to have some stuff that should be available in the game in the first place? And people complain about just the wrong things and don't realize how much worse it could be. A great example is loot boxes. Now, not every game did loot boxes very well, but I really admired the way that Overwatch did loot boxes, despite Overwatch doing so many other things poorly, and Blizzard in general doing things very poorly. The one thing they did right was loot boxes. And big surprise, there aren't loot boxes anymore in Overwatch 2. They actually did a good job with loot boxes. You were guaranteed the rarest items after 25 loot boxes. I remember the rates because I looked it up one time. I was curious. They legally had to release their drop rates for their loot boxes because of some law in China that required it. And of course, Blizzard loves pandering to the Chinese government. So, just like every other big corporation in the world. And that's not a dig at the Chinese people, for the record, just the Chinese government. But they had to release their drop rates, and it had to be like a kind of reasonable drop rate, I think, as well, to fit with the gambling laws there. So from a loot box, you had a 1 in 25 chance of getting a legendary skin. Now, legendary is the equivalent of exotic in Destiny. So legendary in Overwatch is exotic in Destiny. Just think of it that way, right? If you didn't play the game. Of course, I mean, who the hell hasn't played Overwatch? A legendary skin was a 1 in 25 chance of dropping. Otherwise, you'd get pretty much equal chance of everything else to drop. I think some of the epic skins had a also rare chance of dropping, but they would still drop about as often as everything else. All you really cared about was the legendary skins. Right? You had a 1 in 25 chance. And as you opened a loot box, which, by the way, all loot boxes were predetermined. The moment you got a loot box, the game already decided what was going to be opened from it. So it was already determined. And every time you opened one, it would essentially add it to the ticker. So if you had a 1 in 25 chance of getting a legendary on your first loot box, then you had a 2 in 25 chance of getting one, or whatever increased percentage, right? It was an increased percentage every single time you opened a loot box until you got one. Sometimes you'd get a legendary on the first of the set of 25. And sometimes you wouldn't get one until the 24th. But you were guaranteed one, 100% guaranteed on the 25th loot box, no matter what. So if you were that unlucky and you didn't get a legendary for 24 loot boxes, the 25th one would give you a legendary. It's crazy. Crazy how good that is. That's actually good odds. Any gambler would take that bet, dude. Because it's not really a gamble. You know what you're getting into. Now, boxes 1 through 24, especially the earlier ones, like 1 through 12, pretty unlikely to get something. But it averaged out to being a legendary skin every 12 and a half loot boxes. That was the average. because, it's half of 25, and that's the way the percentages worked and stuff. It was a good system. And on top of that, if you didn't get any items, or if you got any items that were duplicates of something you had, which happens sometimes, you would get
thoughts
currency.
On how hard D2 is going to crash if Lightfall fails?
You mean you don't mean Lightfall, but you mean Final Shape. That's all right. I get what you mean. I'll get to that in a second. My summary here, I guess I'm going on too much of a tangent with the Blizzard loot box thing. My summary here is that the loot boxes were not a bad system because they at least gave you currency, and you had a good chance of getting the things. It was really not that bad. And you know what they replaced it with? You know what they ended up replacing with it? Literally just a store. So now you have to just buy everything. The currencies you get within the game are so low that you still cannot afford any of the skins for free, except for the one bone that they throw you every once in a while where it's like, yeah, you can get one free skin. Now go play more of our game and spend money. It's so scummy. And now every game is doing it. I mean, we're pretty much out of, Eververse engrams might as well not even be a thing, because you never get anything good out of those, man. You can't even buy any to get, a whole bunch at once. No, you just have to buy stuff straight out of the store at such inflated prices, dude. It's crazy. Are any of just take a look at it for half a second here, dude. Let's think about it, right? I love some of these armor sets, don't get me wrong. But is this worth $20? Is this worth $20? Now, some of these are more reasonably priced. But even so, $15? I mean, that's a cool armor set. Oh, don't get me wrong. $15, dude. See, I didn't even spend... Now, I may have actually spent money on this one because I liked it so much. But I know for a fact I spent only Bright Dust on the other two sets for my Warlock and Hunter. And that's how I always did it. I was always like, all right, I'll spend money on one, and then I'll use Bright Dust to get the other two. Yeah, and I've heard Diablo 4 is terrible. Blizzard is notoriously bad about it. But Bungie isn't much better. Right? It's all bad. The whole industry is rotten to the core about it, man. It's sickening. And you remember when we were complaining as a community about, I can't believe there's not even any ritual armor anymore? And they're like, okay, we're sorry about that. We're sorry we removed one of the only ways to get free armor in the game. We'll give you one armor set. We were going to put this in the store. It was one of our many hundreds of thousands of armor sets we were going to throw right into the store. We'll give you one because you guys cried about it. Now go, be happy. And now we got our precious bone armor. Oh boy, I love my bone armor. Now don't get me wrong, again, right? Hold on, let me take a look at it. It's good armor. It looks great. Just like all of the other armor sets in the game, it looks good. I got no complaints about that. That's not what this is about. The problem is the stupid system, dude. Why aren't all sets like that? Why can't I haven't even earned all of those armor pieces because I haven't done enough of the ritual stuff on my Warlock. Now I had the full set there on my Hunter. I think I'm still working on my Titan a little bit. And my Warlock's missing a lot of pieces. I gotta grind it out, man, if I really want that set. But you know what I'm not gonna do is spend more money on it. It's crazy, dude. That's like the only way to get most armor sets in the game. I think it's insane that that's the case. And what armor sets are we... Okay, and let's look at the reasoning that they put out of why they stopped giving out all the ritual playlist armor. You guys remember what it was? It was because it was too much trouble to make. It was too much effort to make. It took too much time. And you know what took too much time? Is making armor that looks exactly the same for 3 different activities. Look, here's a Cinder Pinion armor. Here's the Calamity Rig armor. And then here's the Phobos Warden armor. It's so different. Look at it. And look at the Viperidax. And the Photosuade. And the Clutch X-Stall. Oh, and let's not forget that those ones actually have a blue variant with no patterns on them. Now, is it cool that some of them have the cool Gambit snake pattern on it, and some of them have the cool eagle crucible pattern on it? It's like, it's it's cool. It's good armor. Again, like, I'm not gonna complain about that. It's not the armor that's the problem. That it's the system in which we get the armor. It's that armor looks good, but you know what looks better? Is the armor from the store. Genuinely. I think just objectively, most of the armor from the store looks better than most of the armor you can earn in-game. With the exception of a few raid and dungeon and trials armor pieces. There's some good armor sets. There really are. And sometimes you just need a piece. You need a helmet from one set, a chest piece from another set, and a pair of gauntlets from another. Whatever, like, you can mix it up. And that's like the best thing about transmog, right? Is all that customization. But like this is a great armor set. This looks really good. Am I going to spend $15 on it? Hell no. This is also, like, this is a pretty normal looking set, but it doesn't look bad at all. I'd definitely use those pants in something. That looks great. Am I going to spend $15 on it? No. Look, I'm not even going to spend $9 on this one. I apparently earned parts of this one in the past. I'm not spending $9 on that. Like this one. People love this set. This is a great one. This is really, really good. Is it worth $15? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Hell, the set I'm wearing right now, I would rate this so highly, right? I would say it's worth $10. When I bought this, I thought very differently about Bungie. I was super supportive. I was like, hey, I'm willing to spend any amount of money on them as long as they keep making this great game, right? That's what I was thinking. And that was during like Beyond Light, right? That was like halfway through Beyond Light. I don't feel that way anymore. Now I hesitate. Now I look at the store and I go, I don't want to touch any of that stuff, because it's not going to the developers who made the armor. It's going to some douchebag in charge who makes all the worst decisions in the world. But it's frustrating more than anything, right? Let me talk about the thing you were saying I should talk about. Thoughts on how hard D2 is going to crash in Final Shape. Or if Final Shape fails. I think Destiny's been in some bad positions. We were talking about that a little bit ago. All the bad points in Destiny's lifespan, right? All these downsides, all these little spots, these major hurdles that Destiny's overcome. This one that happened just now with the whole people being laid off. We've never had something like this. This is a different thing. And yet I think the game itself is going to continue about the same. They make stuff a year in advance, right? They make stuff so far in advance. So Final Shape is probably mostly done right now, right? Like, all of the story is set. Most of the dialogue's probably recorded. All of the cutscenes are probably made. All of the missions are done. They're probably just fine-tuning stuff at this point and working on the next stuff at this point, right? That's my guess, is they're working on all the next stuff. Also, goodbye, Yelena, I guess. So I don't think it's going to be a bad expansion, or at least it won't be as bad as Lightfall. I think they learned some lessons about it, and they're like, okay, let's not do the same thing that we did for Lightfall, right? I think there's a good chance. It doesn't let me run Roblox and D2. All good, no harm. I'm just running around the tower doing nothing anyway, so you're good. I think that there's no way that Final Shape is going to be the worst thing ever. I don't even think Lightfall was really that bad. I think Lightfall was actually really, really good in a lot of ways. Did the story suck? Yeah. But it sucked in the classic Destiny 1 way, where, like, there were plot holes, Things didn't make sense. There were solutions that could have been made. There's less information than there should have been. And then like all of that got like fixed, right? Like now, if you want to know what the veil is, we have an answer. Like we have an idea, or at least like we have a better idea. Now there's still some mystery around it. We know who the witness is. We actually know who the damn witness is. Now, all these answers, did we get them in a nice way from the original story of the expansion? No, we did not. It's pretty frustrating the way we were delivered this information. I'm not gonna lie, it was really annoying. I've talked about it before, and we don't need to get into it right now. But it wasn't a bad expansion at its core. It brought a lot of changes to the game that needed to happen. A lot of quality of life updates, a lot of new content, new weapons, new abilities, new armor, a new subclass, which a lot of people think should have been released during Witch Queen. I agree with that. I almost feel like Lightfall should not have happened almost at all. I mean, literally, you can line up the beginning and the ending cutscene of Lightfall, and it's seamless. It starts with the witness showing up, wrecking shop on everything, and the traveler blasting into one of the ships and all that stuff. And then it goes to and then it cuts to the witness like cutting open the traveler, and everybody's just kind of looking at it. And it's completely seamless. Like that should have just been the cutscene. That should have been the cutscene. There should have been no Lightfall. It should have just been Final Shape. But no, for some reason they tried to squeeze in a little bit more plot than they should have, and they cut the cutscene in half. And this is true. You can look it up. You can look up the two spliced cutscenes. It is seamless. It is completely seamless how they go together. And it's so all of the stuff we did on Neomuna, all of that felt like a waste of time because of it. It was entirely wasted, essentially. So like, does it feel good to play the expansion knowing that? Not really at all. It doesn't feel good to go through all of that story stuff, and then on top of that, like it could have been the best expansion ever, but it would have still been frustrating that we kind of ended right where it started. Like nothing happened here, right? On top of that, though, then the story itself was kind of sucky. What the hell is this? Oh, it's a little thing. A little Newton's Cradle. It's frustrating that with let me gather my words for a second. I got distracted by the Newton's Cradle. The expansion itself, the story itself, was so lackluster in so many ways. And everybody's talked about it. Everybody has opinions on it. Everybody feels a different way. I didn't even hate Nimbus as a character. I think there were certain points where like they didn't act a way that made a lot of sense to the story. They didn't seem super relevant. Their whole plot line, even with what's his name, Rohan, you know, all the stuff with him as well, just none of it seemed really relevant to the situation. And I feel bad because, like, you know, it's always cool to have representation for people. And, you know, what expansion gets the, you know, the, like, gender neutral Thembo character? Which one gets that fun character? Oh, the worst expansion we've gotten? Great, thanks. Appreciate it, Bungie. Really did a great one for the gender neutral people out there. You know, all the they them users. You know, they really got some great representation. Now the community hates that character because that character is associated with one of the worst expansions. As if as if that community needed more reason to be hated. You know, it's frustrating to see that, right? And then on top of that, right, the rest of the story and the rest of the campaign, even the rest of the other characters. I mean, Osiris is a bit insufferable at points. and Rohan is just kind of like unimportant. Now, I played along. Like, some people were able to predict. I'm usually pretty good at predicting plot points. I was surprised that I didn't predict that Rohan was going to die. Other people were like, yeah, I knew the moment he said that they only last for 10 years or whatever, and his time was almost up, that I knew he was going to do a sacrifice. I probably should have read into that, right? I should have understood that that's clearly what was going to happen. And then, but like, I don't know. There's just so much to be frustrated about with all of the stuff on Neomuna. And yet, Lightfall as an expansion, it wasn't all that bad. There's been a lot of really good stuff that's come out of the expansion. Now, unfortunately, a lot of it has come from the seasons within the expansion, which makes you wonder if the seasonal model is, again, to blame. Because, you know, for the past little while, we've been wanting a new model. And I think they're trying to do the episodes now, and that's the whole plan. So, I don't know. I digress, right? The idea that the game will die after Final Shape, I don't think it's true. I think they've learned some lessons, and if they haven't, then I think it will die. I think the game will really come to an awful, sad conclusion because Bungie will start neglecting it, because legally speaking and financially speaking, it won't be viable to run the game anymore. But here's the other thing though. Here's the other thing. I don't think Bungie will let Destiny die until they have a new cash cow, right? They can't. They cannot afford to let Destiny die. They cannot. So even the terrible corporate heads at Bungie HQ, Sony HQ, you know, you could say even back in the day, Activision, Blizzard HQ, right? All those douchebags in charge that we've been complaining about, that negatively impact the game and don't help anything ever. All those guys, they will not let Bungie die, not that easily. And despite all their bad decisions, they cannot ruin the game too much, because right now it is their only revenue, literally their only revenue. Now, Marathon might come out and be top tier, or Marathon might come out and be kind of mid, or Marathon will come out and be awful. And then, regardless of which state it is, it could change. It could start really good and become really bad. It could start really good and become mediocre. It could start mediocre and become really good. It could start mediocre and stay mediocre. The whole Punnett square that you could make of all the different combinations of how it starts and how it ends, right? You could make that. Like Bungie, or Destiny on its own, it had the whole, it started bad and then it became good. Kind of. But now, but then there's been different points where it became bad again, and then it became good again, and then it became bad again. And then, it's this back and forth. Maybe Marathon's going to have a bit of a turbulent time too. I mean, that would suck for a competitive game. I would feel bad for anybody trying to actually take it seriously. But it could happen, given Bungie's history, it could happen. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. The moment they have another game that's making them real money, I think at that point, Destiny will be at risk of dying. At that point. Once there's a new game that gives them revenue, then they will they might let Destiny die. But until then, we are safe. Until then, the servers will stay online, right? Because at the bare minimum, they need to just keep the servers running, just because it makes them money, if for no other reason, So in some ways, that's good news. That's some of the only good news we've got, is that, yeah, they are making a new game. Yeah, maybe it's taken some of the effort to make it. Maybe they're lying about it, and they really are taking people from the Destiny development team and they're moving them to the Marathon development team, or the Gummy Bears, whatever. Like that's like the code name right now is Gummy Bears. I think it's like a Teamfight Tactics or no, it was something else. It was some, I don't know. It's like some ripoff of some other game. You know, it's one of those things that's going to be clearly a major cash grab. It's all it sounds like. Now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody's going to clip that and clip me saying that Gummy Bears game, whatever it is that Bungie's making right now, it's definitely a lost cause. It's just going to be a cash grab. Nobody's going to play that game. It's going to be awful garbage. It's not even going to be fun. It's going to be super cringe, super lame, super boring, but it's going to make money because all the babies play it. So, okay, you can clip that. You know, maybe in the future, somebody will look at that clip and be like, ha, this loser didn't know how successful Gummy Bears was going to be. And it's like the most successful video game franchise ever to exist. I don't know. Maybe. But until that happens, until that game gets released and becomes the cash cow, then Bungie can't let Destiny die. No matter what they do to it. No matter what horrors they bring upon it. No matter what awful monstrosities run the company, they at least are not stupid enough to kill their only game. The only one they've got, right? Surely they won't let Destiny die. Surely. Now, maybe they will. But I don't know. I think you'd have to be a special kind of idiot to think that, you know, or to be in charge of Bungie and to think that Marathon will just magically take over. Now, maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe this is the extraction shooter to end all extraction shooters. Maybe Tarkov's really going to have a run for their money, you know? Maybe it's just going to be the best game ever. Maybe it's not even going to be just extraction shooters. Maybe it's going to be good for other reasons too, you know? Maybe the other stuff in the game is going to be super, super good, and people are going to forget about Destiny. People are going to be like, man, you remember Destiny? Yeah, I only play Marathon now. Can you believe that we actually played Destiny back in the day? I don't know. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe I'll stop playing Destiny because Marathon's just going to be that good for me. I don't know. I kind of doubt it because it's a PvP game and this is a PvE game. Very, very different things, desires from each one. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I would say best case scenario, right? Let me lay out best case scenario, worst case scenario, and then middle case scenario. Best case scenario, Marathon comes out and it's good, and but it's not the only game that they keep making, right? It brings in a new revenue stream so that we don't have to be sucked dry constantly from Destiny, and then maybe the people in charge will have half a heart and actually like split the revenue between the two games instead of just trying to bleed us dry from one or the other. And both games will thrive, you know? And then the Gummy Bear game will come out, and it'll probably be the biggest cash grab of all time. And people will also play it, and it'll be also really good. And it'll be such a cash cow that the other games will be able to thrive so comfortably that all the microtransactions can get removed, you know? This is not going to happen. All of that's not going to happen, right? That's like fantasy world best case scenario, right? That's never going to happen. None of that. Worst case scenario. See, here's the thing. Is the worst case scenario Marathon doing well? Or is worst case scenario Marathon doing poorly? Because if Marathon does poorly, then Destiny is secured for that much longer until I almost said Blizzard because I'm, similar company. Destiny is safe until there's another revenue stream. But at the same time, another revenue stream would allow for a more comfortable experience if, they can just put greed aside for half a second and consider the quality of their games, which may or may not happen. So I don't know. It's tough to say. If I were running Bungie, right? If I were running Bungie, I would try to get one game I would try to get even revenue from everything. I would try to have a few different games, and I would use that revenue to improve all of the games, right? I would use that revenue to keep all of the games running at their tip-top shape, right? That's the ideal. Everything is making money, and then that money is recirculating within the games to make the games better. Problem is, that's not the case. So if Marathon does well, it could put Destiny at risk because it's no longer the cash cow. If Marathon does poorly, it could put Destiny at risk because then they have to microtransaction the hell out of Destiny even more than they've already done. Start selling expansions for more, start selling, more seasons for more, throw in more cosmetics for more money, just bleed us dry because they desperately need money to maintain 2 games now instead of just 1, and Marathon's not making that money, right? So it could go poorly, right? But one thing's for sure. I don't think Final Shape is going to be bad. I really don't. Now it might be. Maybe it really will be. I don't think it will be. I think everybody at Bungie, both the higher ups in charge, who don't actually make the game but just make all the money, right? I think that they even know that Final Shape needs to be good, or else people are not going to play it, people are not going to buy it, and they're not going to make any money anymore because I think people got tired with Lightfall and they need a win. Let's think of what happened before, right? Every single time that there were bad expansions, they followed it up with a banger every single time. Now, you could say like Curse of Osiris, maybe wasn't followed up with a good expansion. What's the Warmind one? Hold on, let's look at the thing real quick. This was during the time I didn't really play Destiny, so I'm always a little shaky on the timeline. Yeah, so like Red War came out kind of bad. Curse of Osiris, new locations, new stuff, still pretty bad. Not a very good expansion on its own. Even the Warmind expansion, pretty bad. And then, lo and behold, Forsaken. Oh, everybody loves Forsaken. Everybody loves Forsaken. The best thing anybody's ever seen. Shadowkeep comes out. It's kind of mid. It's fine. It's actually a pretty good expansion, all things considered. But people aren't really super impressed. And then Beyond Light. Oh, another good one. Another banger. And then, in my opinion, Witch Queen... See, this is where it gets a little tough, though, I feel. For Destiny's history. Forsaken, good expansion. Shadowkeep, good expansion. Beyond Light, I know some people disagree, good expansion. 30th Anniversary, good mini expansion. The Witch Queen, good expansion. Lightfall, bad expansion. Final Shape, I don't know. It's tough, man. It's tough to say because I feel like we had a streak going and we lost the streak, right? Now, there were some stinkers in every expansion. There were some stinkers of seasons. I remember Season of the Lost was kind of mid in Beyond Light. People didn't like Season of the Hunt either, or Beyond Light in general. People hated some of the campaign stuff, how tedious getting Stasis was, right? Witch Queen, Season of the Haunted, Season of the Plunder, absolute stinkers, right? There's some cool stuff here and there, but they were super slow. People hated Season of the Plunder. I love the pirate aesthetic, but man, it was a grind, dude. Like it was boring. It really got old, man. People really did not like. I didn't like either of these for their own reasons, but I also liked both of them for their own reasons, right? They were pretty mid to me. They were like mid. But they were definitely weaker than Season of the Seraph. Suddenly, Season of the Seraph, big banger, dude. Yeah, it was tough. Also, let me catch up on chat. People are talking. How many times do they have to learn? Yeah. We don't talk about this. You wouldn't seen that you've been running in circles? Yeah, in real life, I have to pace whenever I'm talking. So it helps that I can do that in game, you know. My issue is the game died to me because of how easy everything was. It never changed. It's always the same thing. But I guess that's the fate for people like me, you know. My main issue was they killed all the speed and how fast everything was. That killed the game for me. Yeah, we'll see. It's tough because they're not appealing to the speedrunner crowd, you know. A lot of game developers are so averse to speedrunners. I don't know what it is. It's like speedrunners and modders are like always the communities that developers hate the most for some reason, even though they're like the blood like of continually playing a game, right? Like modding can really turn a game around and add a new experience to it. And speedrunning is by definition playing something to like perfection essentially. Meaning that you have continual players. So like there's nothing wrong with either of those communities, and yet for some reason a lot of development teams just seem so averse to both of those groups. It's crazy to me. It's always so crazy to me. Hate modders? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, like, you know, a great example is just like Nintendo. Nintendo hates modding. It's stupid. It's crazy of them to hate modding. It's crazy of them to be so strict about so many other things they're strict over. You look at all the stuff that Nintendo freaks out about. It's insane, and we don't need to get into it. From the second they took Double Icarus Dash out, it was over. Yeah, it sucks because you're in too niche of a community, Yelena. There are so many niches within this game, right? Like Destiny is its own niche. It's not the biggest community out there. It's still pretty big. It's not the biggest. And within that, you have like the PvE crowd and the PvP crowd, and then within the PvE crowd, you have like, you know, the hardcore and the, you know, the like casual, and then within the hardcore, you have the speedrunners. So you're like in a niche within a niche within a niche within a niche. Like you were in like the tiniest group possible, Yelena. So to expect any kind of catering from Destiny is, I'm not saying you're delusional or anything. It's not your fault. It's Bungie, you know. It's the powers that be, you know. But it is, I don't know, it is frustrating. Left for almost 2 years, came back in Season of the Seraph. Felt like I wasted money getting Lightfall in the yearly pass. Yeah. Yeah, I'm saying you don't matter, Yelena. I mean, to be fair, coming back during Season of the Seraph, that has to have been like a good experience, because that was such a good season. And then Lightfall, it was so jarring going from Season of the Seraph to Lightfall. Just from a narrative perspective, from a gameplay perspective, not so much. The game was about the same. I enjoyed the campaign. Most of the missions were like a proper difficulty. You know, it felt fine. I had no issues with the game. I think most of the issues were just with the campaign and the story and the direction that certain things were going, you know? But we already kind of talked about that. I don't know. It's frustrating because we've seen such improvement. Like Red War was worse. I promise. I promise you. Red War, this whole release of Destiny 2, no matter how much anybody will ever try to convince you otherwise, Destiny 1 at its very end was in such a good state. It was going so well. Like they peaked at the Taken King expansion. They peaked so high, and they rode that high through Rise of Iron, you know, and they kept it going. They kept that momentum going, and then Red War dropped, Destiny 2 dropped, and it all fell apart. It all dropped immediately. And then they scramble and they make Curse of Osiris, and they scramble and they make Warmind, and neither of them are just neither of them are good enough. They just don't really do anything. Nobody really cares. Nobody really likes it. Some people are staying. Some people are going. Ah, damn it! Stupid added progress. Uh, uh, it all sucks for a bit, right? It all stays sucky. Curse of Osiris is still sucky. It's more stuff. Maybe it got a little bit better, but it still sucks. Warmind comes out. Maybe it got a little bit better, but it still sucks. We're back. Curse of Osiris and Warmind are the equivalent of the Dark Below and House of Wolves. I swear to you, some people will call me a blasphemer for saying that. Red War is as bad as Destiny 1 release was. Vanilla Destiny 1. Curse of Osiris is as bad as Dark Below. Warmind is as bad as House of Wolves. It's all the same. And then suddenly the banger comes along. Forsaken. It's out. It's killing it. It's doing such a good job. And that's exactly what the Taken King did. Shadowkeep. It's good. It's fine. Maybe not the most beloved expansion of all time, but it brought a lot of good stuff to the game. And it's the equivalent of Rise of Iron. If Shadowkeep came out before Forsaken, in the same way that if Rise of Iron came out before Taken King, people would probably look at that as being better. Now, Forsaken does have a little leg up just because it had the whole story with Cade, and that's very nostalgic. But, remember the actual gameplay of Forsaken, the storyline? You guys remember having to fight every single Baron? You remember how long that took? It was a long storyline. It took forever. It kind of got boring after a bit. I was not really much of a fan. Shadowkeep, actually not that much better story-wise, missions-wise. But I think it's a little bit better. The only thing Forsaken had going for it was the whole thing about Cade and some of the stuff with the Dreaming City, right? But even so, I don't know. I don't view it as highly. I think they're equally good expansions, but people always go to Forsaken. People always go to Forsaken to talk about how good it is and not anything else. And then Beyond Light comes out. I come back. I start playing the game again because Beyond Light is out. All of this stuff goes away. Like, everything's gone from here up until here. Actually, Forsaken stuff stayed around for a little bit while I came back, and then slowly drifted away. Shadowkeep stuff is still kind of there. I come back for Beyond Light, and I start playing, and I'm like, this game is back, dude. It is back. I come back at the peak. Like, this is the Rise of Iron. Like, maybe this was like in between Taken King and Rise of Iron. You could say that Shadowkeep's like an in-betweener. Beyond Light, I feel like, is the Rise of Iron. It was still good. It was still just as good as Forsaken. And it just kind of rode out that high. Witch Queen, though. Witch Queen. People loved Witch Queen. Now, people complain about Beyond Light. I didn't. Maybe it was just because I was kind of new to Destiny 2 at the time. I didn't have any real complaints about Beyond Light. I had no issues. I can't think of a single bad thing. And that's not just nostalgia. That was just like 3 years ago, dude. Like, I can't think of anything really that long-lasting that was bad about Beyond Light. Like, the worst thing was like, oh, Stasis took a little too long to acquire. Okay, well, they patched that. Now, so, maybe it's not the best experience back then, but it's better now, So you can go play Beyond Light and have a great time. Now, the seasonal model, it's sad that you can't access any of that seasonal stuff because there's actually some cool stuff there. Some fun story things. So when we first met Keitel and all that, got the Splicer stuff, got Mithrax as well. I mean, lots of cool stuff happened that expansion, And then Witch Queen, banger of a season, or banger of an expansion. Season of the Risen's fine, nothing crazy going on there. Season of the Haunted and Plunder both have crazy good story stuff, super terrible campaign stuff. Really lazy, reused content. Everybody's complaining about it. It's super repetitive, super boring. This is peak bad seasonal content. These two seasons in particular. This is when it got really bad. And then, but we were given feedback back during Season of the Risen. We started really complaining during Haunted, And Bungie started hearing our complaints during Plunder and started going, okay, sorry. And then Season of the Seraph drops, banger of a season, super good. I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's like they had all this momentum. It was all going so well. Everything was fine. And then, a few bad seasons. And then, when we thought it was getting bad, Season of the Seraph drops, and it's just like, okay, we're back, baby. We're back. And then Lightfall. And it's like, okay, well, that kind of sucks. All that momentum, even the little setback, Season of the Seraph, bringing it all back together in a nice, perfect little bow, and then Lightfall. Season of Defiance, Season of the Deep, okay, we're getting better. Season of the Witch, okay, this is pretty good. Oh, you laid off like all of your staff? Oh. Oh wait, but we got the 15th wish, and now we're going in, and there's an Ahamkara egg and all this crazy stuff. What the hell? What's going on? And so, like, I don't know, man. It's so tough. It's so tough talking about any of this because it's all just so up and down. Just like all this back and forth of like, is the game in a good state? Are we good? Like, are we okay? What's going on here, man? I don't know. It all just feels so weird, man. It all just feels so weird. And it's all just so bizarre. So will Final Shape be good? I think so. I think Bungie knows how to make a good expansion. Even if they fired half their development team, the expansion's probably already been developed for the most part. I think most of it has been created. I don't know what's going to happen with the episodes. I don't understand. So I'm a little confused on how the stuff is going to go along. Like, if you look at the thing right now, right? So let's take a look at it real quick. We were just looking at it. So look, expansion, season, expansion, season. Next season, even though we know it's called Season of the Wish, they haven't put it here yet. What about this one? Final Shape, season. And then the story continues. Clearly, these are the episodes, right? These are where the episodes are going to go. So they're just longer seasons. That's what we're getting. All right? I'm happy that I got to rescue Saint 14. Feel bad no one else will get that experience. I agree. I wish I could experience that story mission, even if the rest of the expansion wasn't all that great. I would like to have experienced that. The fact that they brought back these missions and none of the other ones, these missions are still in the game, dude. Like, they brought these back for new players that are trying to catch up on story stuff. Like, the Forsaken one makes sense. Beyond Light's still in the game. Witch Queen's still in the game. Shadowkeep, they didn't even do one for it, but it's also still in the game. And they also changed like some of the stuff in the mission. It was really weird. For all of them, they like shortened it, which is fine if you're trying to do just a recap. Oh yeah, also Forsaken only had 3 seasons. Interesting. But like, why do we not get the missions from these? I mean, Mars has come back as a location. Didn't this like take place on Mars? Haven't we gone back to these locations basically? Didn't they reuse some assets? We could probably there's probably a file in there that they could just throw in real quick, for one little mission. Why can't we do that at least? We can't even do it for Red War, the base expansion. We know this stuff's still in the game because every damn location in the Red War was just somewhere in the EDZ or on Nessus or on IO, which I guess isn't in the game technically, but it's either the EDZ or Nessus. Damn, are those the only locations still from Red War? That's so sad, actually. Yeah, IO and Titan. Those were the other ones, and they got removed. That's right. But I mean, like, even the Titan one, we've brought back parts of Titan for certain seasonal stuff. So it's in the game files right now. It's crazy to me. I mean, the sunsetting stuff is sad. It's a whole different discussion. I feel like they could handle it a totally different way, but clearly that's not the way they want to handle it. You know, I feel like, I mean, imagine in a perfect world, imagine if expansions in Destiny functioned in the same way that map packs, which it's a little hard to say, map packs in any other game functioned. Or even DLC in other games. There are other games that do DLC like that, where you have the main game and then you buy the DLC, and it doesn't even, the DLC doesn't even exist for you at all in the main game until you download it. Destiny's not even like that. I'm pretty sure the DLC exists in the game, and you have to buy it, and then it just unlocks. And that's it. Why don't they just do it like that? Why don't they just be like, okay, you want to play Curse of Osiris, Warmind? Well, you know, you can pay us money, and you can go play those. But you got to download it, too. You got to update your game. I'd be fine with that, man. They throw these in a $20 bundle. I'll pay for it. I'll pay for that over a skin. Or an armor set, you know? Now, am I going to have a great time playing Curse of Osiris and Warmind? No! They were not that great of expansions. They really weren't. There's a reason why I didn't play at the time, you know? I would come back every once in a while trying to see if I liked it, you know? Here and there, I'd try it. I'd come back every few expansions and see if I could get back into Destiny. And every time I'd be like, this kind of sucks still. You know? But would I still pay the $20 to come back and play these games, do all the raids that came out during that time period, do all this new stuff, or all this old stuff? Hell yeah, dude. I'd go back and I'd fight the Barons again, you know, at least once for some achievement or something. I don't know. You know, I'm not going to say I miss it. I'm not going to say I love it. But it's sad to see it all go. You know? I mean, the fact that we got Mars back from Destiny 1 and then it went away again. The fact that we got a new planet with each expansion and then they went away. I mean, hell, Forsaken gave us 2 new locations. Tangled Shore and Dreaming City. And now it's just Dreaming City. Like, I mean, it's kind of depressing, isn't it? You know? I don't know. It's frustrating. It's all really frustrating to see. Why can we not just download expansion packs? Like actual packs. Packets of separate data. Like, clearly the loot is still in the game. All of our triumphs are still in the game. I mean, look at this. Hold on. Let's just look at it for a second. We can still look at these. I can look at these right now. Now, this isn't much, but this is just scratching the surface of it, dude. These are old, man. These are so old. This is from old stuff. I bet there's stuff here. I bet there's stuff that should be here that isn't, because I didn't even play at that time. If you can keep track of the weapons, all of the loot, and all of your triumphs and achievements, you can make expansion packs that you can download and then uninstall whenever you're done playing them. I feel like they could do that. They could implement that in some way. They could make it so that you can pick which expansions you have downloaded for the game. I feel like it wouldn't be that bad to do. Now, would it be a lot of trouble to go through? Of course. Do I think they'll ever do that? Not ever. I don't think they'll ever do that. I don't think it's possible. I think it's possible. I don't think it's possible that Bungie would ever do it. I don't know who would have to approve it. I don't know what effort they'd have to go through for the spaghetti code to work. But I think it's something they could do that they'll never do. And that sucks, because it would be the best thing that they could do. Because if they're really worried about the download size, I mean, okay, imagine being a console player and having that limited space on your download. So you play one expansion, right? You go through the whole expansion, you do it, you get all the loot you want from it, and then you delete that expansion, download the next one. You still have all your loot. Like right now, we have all of our sunset gear. Let me just pull something that's been sunset, right? I don't know. Here's my show of force. It's that sniper from Black Armory. It'll come here in a second. Here it comes. If I want, I can run this. I can play with this. I can use this. Will I ever? No, of course not. But I could if I wanted to. It's in the game still. They didn't get rid of this. It's still here. Can I obtain this from anything? Of course not. Of course I can't, right? But it still exists here in the game. It's still here. It didn't go away. If you had armor, if you had exotics, if you had weapons, if you had items, even consumables, if you had triumphs, if you had a sparrow, a ship, if you had anything from a previous expansion that got removed from the game, it's still in the game. All of that stuff is, just not the locations. So why can't we have the map packs and the mission packs, right? Why can't we have that as a separate thing that you just download? And then if you decide to delete it off your hard drive, then okay, cool. Well, your account still has all those weapons from it. And your account still has it set that you paid for those things, right? Like it's not that outlandish of an idea. It's not that crazy. It's something that we could actually do, you know? I say we. It's something that they could actually do. I don't know. It's frustrating to see. That's I feel a simple solution with a complicated path to get there, right? Like the more expansions they add, of course, the harder it's going to be too, because now they're reusing old content for it. So I don't know. Are they bringing back Mayhem at all? I kind of need to play Mayhem to get this seasonal challenge, and it hasn't been out for like 3 weeks. I don't know. I think it's really... Also, yeah, Gore, you said it pretty much. You summed up the whole community sentiment from most people, I think. We've all invested so much into this game. We're all going to go down it with the ship, right? We're all, you know, at the very least, if you want to quit the game, if you want to stop playing the game, you're probably going to watch someone else play the next few expansions, right? And if you need to, this is where I'll plug myself. I'll you know, advertise myself, right? If you need somebody to watch who will keep playing the expansions and stuff, then I'm your gnome, man. I will have you covered, right? But even I can't promise that I will play after Final Shape. I want to. I really, really do. But like I'm a little scared. So I think to answer your original question, Yelena, I don't know if you're still here listening to all this rambling. I think the question is not will Final Shape be good? I think it will. I think Bungie cannot risk Final Shape being bad. I think they have to do everything in their power to make it the best expansion they can make it, which is good for us. But I am curious about what happens after. And I am worried about what happens after. And I think that's the biggest concern, you know? I mean, what are they going to bring? Because in my opinion, the new subclasses are meh from a higher up POV. Yeah. I mean, I think I think Strand is pretty good. I think it's found its niche. Like, okay, I know you play in a bit of a different way. Speedrunning stuff is a bit different, you know. But as an end game player, like I do GMs and I do raids and I do, master raids and I do day one raids, and I'm no competitor when it comes to those things, but I do them, right? I think Strand has found its niche, right? It's found its spot. It's really really viable on all classes right now in different ways. And for a while, I was worried that it was just going to be Stasis 2.0, right? Like the suspend from Strand was just going to take over the freeze from Stasis, and it was just going to be a better freeze. And although suspend still works pretty well, it doesn't last as long. It's not as good as it used to be. And it's still pretty effective at stunning champions and taking care of champions, but it's actually not as good as freeze is, which is kind of nice. And they have, since nerfing suspend and buffing everything else, basically, Strand has actually become really viable in PvE and in PvP. So I actually think Strand's in a really good spot right now, personally. And the thing is, like, Final Shape's not even adding a new subclass, which is kind of sad. Because if they added a new subclass in Final Shape, that would just give it a little bit more edge of being good, guaranteed. But I guess they're gonna hold the new subclass hostage. You know what I think? Here's what I think. I think the higher ups at Bungie. Well, first of all, Strand was probably just not ready to go by the time Witch Queen was ready. They realized it. So they're like, okay, well, we'll put Strand in Lightfall, I guess. And Lightfall can't be all the stuff we thought it was going to be. So you're going to have to remake the story. And so they probably had to start from the ground up. Make a terrible story that wasn't as good. Shoehorn in all of the plot stuff that that we were supposed to get in a different format. Now in a new location that doesn't really make any damn sense. With characters that are barely related to the plot in any way whatsoever, right? Okay, fine, whatever. All this new stuff. I think originally, Lightfall was going to have our third Darkness subclass. I think originally Witch Queen was going to have our second Darkness subclass. And then upon seeing the delay for Witch Queen getting the subclass, they thought, you know what, this is actually good. Because when Final Shape comes out, although it's the final story thing, people will be unsatisfied when the third subclass doesn't come out. So they'll keep playing, waiting for the third Darkness subclass to come out, and then we'll release it later on. I feel like somebody made that decision. I feel like they could probably put out, if I had to guess, they could probably put out another subclass by the time Final Shape comes out. I think they could. I think they could do it. Maybe it wouldn't be the best idea. Maybe it wouldn't work out all that well. But I think they could do it. And I think more than just having developmental reasons, like I think there's good reasons for it. I think a big motivator for them is profit, of course. We can keep people playing the game longer, even though Final Shape ends. We'll keep people going because the third Darkness subclass will be out later. And I feel like that's a little scummy. I feel like at some point somebody had that thought, somebody made that decision, and that's frustrating. Like, why can't we get a subclass during a season instead of an expansion? You know? Why does it have to be expansion based? It's a little weird, isn't it? You know? It's all profit, you know? It's always profit. That's always the answer to every question of why is it like this? It's always profit. Personally, I would like to do more. The group recently disbanded. Hard to do solo. Yeah, I get that too. As much as I love this game, it's just so bad for people like me. Like, I can't even play with normal LFGs without getting booted and or getting lashed out. I just wish the game were fast so people didn't get left down when I went fast. See, I think that's the biggest disparity between certain communities. Like, okay, you know what would make things great for the speedrunner community? Honestly, Yana, if going fast were not locked behind all of the skill, if it was really, really, really easy to do like sword skating, if there was just a gun that launched you at light speed or whatever. If it was just a sword and you didn't have to do any funny combo or anything. And like skating is not that hard, man. It really is not. But if it was just a little bit easier, like it would make a big difference for the game. If like net limiting wasn't so significant for, you know, speedruns in this game, you know, if it was less like, if there was more, what's the word? I think this guy's looking at my armor. Oh no, he's looking at that thing over there. If the speed in the game were more accessible to the average Joe, I think the speedrunning community would thrive. But instead, Bungie, like many other developers, is super, super against the speedrunning community for some reason. When in fact they should actually embrace speedrunners and try to give them more avenues and outlets to do things. And it's weird because like there's so many things that are like little time trial things where they're like, hey, you know, see, here's a triumph for getting this mission done in under 25 minutes or whatever. And normally the mission's like a 40-minute long mission. So they're like, hey, try to do it pretty fast, you know? Because when Double Icarus Dash was out and the skill gap was there, everyone was good. The raids were hard, and seeing someone like me was a saving grace. I'm not saying I want to be held that high. I'm just saying that I don't want to get exiled because that's how I play the game. Jokes aside, I literally cannot play the game without like moving how I move. My brain doesn't comprehend. I get that. I get that. And I mean, you know, I have a bit of a different perspective because, you know, although I am an endgame player, I also do a lot of like Sherpa stuff. So I've learned to be very patient, like it, and sometimes let people play the game instead. Like I will intentionally, when I Sherpa, I will intentionally have other people do the mechanics just so I'm not doing it for them, right? So I'm kind of more used to, you know, letting other people do the work whenever the time comes. And sitting in the back and just kind of watching and helping from, you know, like a verbal help, you know, and instead of a like let me do it for you kind of help, you know, and that's good for Sherpa, but it is different, you know. I understand that that means it's a bit different. I will skate and do a mechanic fast. Oh, here we go again. Some nerd or speedrunner I want to be. That's actually really funny because you're not even a wannabe. You're literally just a speedrunner. So, I get it so much. I can get it comped on it and posted on YouTube. And see, that is a bit frustrating. I don't know. I think a lot of times people don't actually want to get the game done very fast. So I think it's a bit of an unfortunate situation for you, just in general, because I think in general, despite how competitive this game can be sometimes, very rarely, and how high-end some of the stuff can be, you know, some of the end game stuff can be pretty hard. Even despite all that, it's a pretty casual game. It's more hardcore in the dedication and the grind. It's less hardcore in the actual gameplay, you know? And so I think when you're somebody who pushes that boundary and you really try to like be crazy about it, I think people will get a little like, oh man, I don't want to rush through it. I mean, okay, I have done raids before where I am not doing a Sherpa run or anything. I just want like a casual raid experience, but instead I'm getting people like you, Yelena, who are just trying to barrel through it as fast as possible. Now you're different because you're actually fun to talk to, but I swear there are some speedrunners out there who like, or at least like they're not even speedrunners. It's just the guys who like farm the raids that I've I think it always ends up being they're so hit or miss, man. Sometimes you come across people in this game just in general who are just completely unbearable, you know? And it gets frustrating because, like, I want to do the mechanics too. I want to participate in the raid. Like, it pisses me off every time I do Deep Stone Crypt and it's not explicitly a speed run. It's just like, hey, let's just do like a normal run. And then somebody's oobing during the first encounter, and I'm like, bro, like, can we just like communicate and make callouts and sit here and chat and have a good time? But instead they're doing all of the mechanics literally through a wall. I'm like, this is not fun for me. I'm not having fun with this raid. I wanted to have fun with this raid. I wanted to use my knowledge of this raid to complete it, and instead we're doing the glitch. You know? And like that can be kind of fun sometimes, but like it sucks when somebody does all the work for you, right? I don't like that all the time, you know? I do something above average, I get looked at like I'm 300 pounds and play all day. And when it's the reverse, yeah, aren't you like jacked or something? People who insult me are like old heads or fat people that have 2 times my hours. All right, no need to call names. There's times where I try my best to move slow or take it slow. It's still not enough. Yeah, the farmers, I hate to rag on any community within the game because I'm not part of the community. Because I'm not a speedrunner either, so I don't understand all the speedrunning stuff. And I've met a lot of your speedrunner friends and other speedrunners who just are weird and equally as bad as some of the farmers out there. And I've met a few farmers that are totally cool and like actually decent people. So it's, I don't like to generalize or anything. But yeah, there are some out there that are just wacky, dude. They're all weird and not likable to speak to. Because the ego, a video game, that's why I stepped away from it, because of the people. Not trying to glaze myself, but that's what I do. I ask before I do anything, even take a vote if they would like me to do stuff like that. Yeah, and I think I think you're a lot more reasonable than some people are, Again, I think it's a bit frustrating, right? Because it always goes back to I think it's, again, a bit of an accessibility thing. I think if everybody were speedrunning the raids, like if there were like 3 categories, right? I think that ideally there should be 3 categories for doing a raid, right? There's your first time. You want to learn the raid, you want to learn the mechanics, you want to learn how to do all this stuff and how to do it legit, and maybe a few of the cheeses if they're consistent or fun or better or whatever, right? You want to learn the raid, right? That's the first category. The second category is your average run. You are just hanging out, you're just doing the raid. Everybody knows what they're doing, but there's no pressure if things go bad. It's just kind of like, hey, we're just kind of here to have fun. We're here to hang out and, relax because we're playing a video game and it's supposed to be relaxing or fun or something. No competition, no nothing. It's just a normal run. That's the second category, right? Third category is hyper competitive and or I just want to get this done fast. Sometimes I want to do that. I think everybody's been in one of these 3 categories before. Of course, everybody has to learn the raid at some point, right? So you're in the first category. I think most of the time, most people want to be in the second category. But I've been, like, if it's 5 hours before reset and I need to get, like, 3 clears done, I'm joining a Know What To Do post. I'm going to hop in a Know What To Do post, and if we are taking forever with an encounter, I might leave, man. If there's somebody who's doing it for the first time, normally I'm pretty patient about that. But if it's a Know What To Do post, then I'll be like, hey, man, I'll teach you any other time, but I got to get this raid done in the next 2 hours. Like, so I can't right now, man. And I think those distinctions need to be made. And I think the problem is there's less accessibility for that third category. I think a lot of what separates the speedrunners from the speedrunners, I think, mostly occupy the third category of trying to, get it done as quickly as possible. Because I mean, that's literally the name of the game, right? Um, I think what separates them from um, people in the second category is the accessibility of going fast, right? And like, I think there's a lot of emphasis on using every single possible glitch. And unfortunately, I think that means like net limiting, And you've talked about it before where it's like, if you want to get a good time, there's not really any like serious, legit, no net limiting categories. Nobody really takes that seriously. If you want to get a good run and you can net limit, it's just kind of better. And you've complained about that before, where it's like that's just kind of a thing that's expected in the community, and that sucks. And I think that's another thing that like Bungie themselves, like they don't like when you net limit, right? They don't want that. So of course, like they're going to be more against speedrunning because of that. But the problem is, it's a problem created by Bungie themselves, because if they don't want you to net limit, they need to give you more options to do things quickly. If they don't want you to go out of bounds, they got to give you more options to run through the encounters faster. And it's genuinely frustrating, because there are some encounters in certain raids that just like, when even if you know exactly what you're doing and everybody's doing everything right, it still takes a set amount of time. And that's where the glitches come in, where you have to do a glitch to get it done faster. And that can be really frustrating. Like, I bet right now, every speedrunner who does Crota's End, I bet they're skipping across the bridge one way or another. Maybe not everybody goes across or something like back in Destiny 1. Actually, that wasn't even the case in Destiny 1. It was just a few people. I think it was just everybody who could. I don't know. It's been a while. Yeah, Vow, the first encounter of Vow. It is like, if you insta-kill every single ad in that encounter, it still takes forever, dude. It takes so damn long. And even normal people, if there was a way, if there was a way, encouraged by Bungie, incorporated in the game, to speed the cart along by killing certain enemies and like throwing the cores, like the the public event, right, where it's basically the payload encounter, and there's like, in order to make it heroic, you have to throw those balls at the cart. If they had that, bro, where like, if you kill enough enemies, or if you kill random enemies, like, has a chance, but if you kill one of the abominations, they guaranteed drop one, and it like speeds up the cart or something like that. Do you know how much that would change up the encounter to make it faster? Then it would become a matter of killing the things as fast as possible, even more so than it is. And then it rewards you for doing a better job. Or if there's like a mechanic to do while it's happening, so you could like speed it along if you do that mechanic. Otherwise, it'll go at the normal speed. Like, that would make it so much better. Now, are they going to retroactively change the raid? I doubt it. They're not going to do that anytime soon. But it would be, it's nice food for thought of a way they could fix something like that. Here's called 3074. Press Control 3. I don't know what that means. Is that like a net limit thing? I don't know. And see, that's frustrating. That again, it's like the solution to a problem caused by Bungie is net limiting. And yeah, it's... Damn. That's wacky. And see, the sad thing is that is the solution, instead of Bungie providing a way to go through it faster, right? Like, what's nice about Deepstone Crypt, the first encounter of Deepstone Crypt, right? What's nice about that is you can optimize that really, really well. You can get that to be really good without any glitches at all. You can get it down to a science, dude, and get it to be super quick. And it doesn't really matter, because instead people out of bounds to look at the stupid glowy stuff, So brain dead, dude. It's the solution is instead the most boring thing you could do. Just go through a wall and then look at the thing without doing any of the mechanics. Just have someone else shoot the things. It's so boring, dude. Raid is old. Yeah, and see that's another thing, you know. But you know, that's why I like doing Deepstone Crypt, and that's why I always leave whenever somebody's doing the out of bounds thing. Cuz like, you know, maybe they're a speedrunner, maybe they're a farmer and they just want to get it done as fast as possible. I'm not here for it, man. I'm here to have fun with raids. I try to really enjoy it. You know, I try to really have fun with it because I feel like raids are peak content in Destiny. I feel like there are raids and dungeons in other games, right? Whatever they call it, it's the equivalent to Destiny's raids, right? And I feel like Destiny just does it in such a specific, unique way that's so much more cohesive for a fun time, right? I think I think peak Destiny raids are doing the encounters legit, no cheeses, maybe wiping a few times because you didn't do it right. You know, having fun with the people you're with and chatting while you're doing it, making, you know, cracking jokes and having a good time. But feeling accomplished when you get it done, feeling like you did something when you got it right, you know? Optimizing it maybe, you know, like a GM, optimizing it to the point where you are just steaming through it, you know? I feel like that's peak Destiny is raids when they're like that, you know? Because, bro, how is it you don't know anything about it? Obviously, first time you can get an excuse, but it's so putrid. Let's I know what to do, and he's like not real. Can't do that in D2. It's too easy to take high end loadouts. Went back to Tommy's matchbook and acting more rig. Kind of tired of being one punch strand. I did a challenge. This was like years ago now. I think it was back when Vault of Glass was the newest raid still, and it was the end of some season. And I did a challenge where I equipped Tommy's matchbook and I used it for all four raids in a row. I think it was just Last Wish, Garden of Salvation, uh, Vault of Glass, and another one. I can't remember what else was out at the time. Um, oh, Deepstone Crypt. And I went in order of when they were released in Destiny 2. And I had Tommy's matchbook equipped on my hunter the whole time. It was just a fun little gimmick. It felt I felt it was reminiscent to when Data would have all those challenges where he'd kill Crota or Golgoroth or whatever with one specific exotic that's not even meant for boss damage or whatever, you know? I don't know. Still gets rolled over. Obviously, you know my opinion on resilience. I run 0 on every character, and I don't understand how people get rolled over. Yeah, it's funny because like I'm bad, so instead of running 0, I run maxed out resilience, right? That's my shtick. You know, even on Hunter, I try to minimize mobility. Literally 9. Oh, not even like tier 9. You mean like actually 9. 9 out of 100. Literally? I don't know. I think stats can make a big difference in the game. I think there's like I mean there's some stuff that will actually one shot you. And I think, that's your preference because it does actually make the game more difficult for you in a way, and it encourages you to play better, right? I like having that cushion where like I can play a little sloppy or be a bit more casual and not get one shot. So, it's cool because that's a really simple way that Bungie has kind of unintentionally given us the option to play the same game differently at our own difficulties. Like, you and I can run a raid together or a GM or whatever. You'd be running 0 resilience, I'd be running max resilience, and we'd both be having a good time with it, right? Basically. We would both be fine with it, right? Is it Trials Week? I don't know, man. I mean, Trials isn't out because it's Thursday? Yeah, it's still Thursday. I've been waiting for them to have Cataphract as the reward, the new grenade launcher. I actually really need to get some rolls on that thing because if grenade launchers ever get good, then it's literally, it's got like the best grenade launcher rolls you can get right now. So I'm kind of waiting for it. I'm hoping they bring it up this week, maybe. Hey man, if it's this weekend, then hit me up tomorrow. I have the day off tomorrow, and I might be playing all day. So yeah. I just don't know what gun it is. If it's not Cataphract, I might not need to run any trials at all. So I don't know. Hanging out with the wife. It's so cute you call her your wife. I do work Saturday. I'm trying to remember when I work Saturday. I think I might be working evening on Saturday. Wait, I have a day off tomorrow, right? Am I getting that wrong? Let me double check that. Wait. No, I'm misremembering. No, I work tomorrow. I work tomorrow and the day after in the evening. Oh, you know what I was thinking of next week? I still have the day wrong, but I was thinking of the pattern I work. Yeah, I work like every day this weekend. Man, that sucks. I work in the evening tomorrow and the day after, which sucks. But I do work in the morning on Sunday. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have spent all day ranting. Maybe I should have actually gotten some stuff done. Oh well. I don't think there's a lot of stuff I need to get done this week in particular, so it's fine. I don't know. I think I think it's cool that there's some stuff that Bungie has implemented that is like it does allow for that level of play. Of everybody can play the same game at the same time at different levels. Um like I think whenever they've like some of the best stuff they've done, right, is given starting players some of the best loot in the game. When they made Taipan craftable and also made it the God roll linear during peak linear hours, that was like a godsend. It was like, hey, new player, go craft this easy, completely free weapon, level it up a little bit, and you have the best DPS in the entire game. You can go do any activity, and it will be better. And then, like around the same time, they gave Thunderlord for free, which I mean it's a world drop, but like they just handed it out in like a free pack just for like playing that season. It's a free reward. You get Thunderlord. Literally like one of the best heavy weapons they've ever created. It's all around good ad clear without much effort. It's really fun to use. It's also not the worst damage. I know some people really clown on it, like, oh, all the LFGs say to just run Thunderlord. And it's like, yeah, because everybody has Thunderlord. Leviathan's Breath is some of the best damage you can get right now. There have been other options that are also really, really good. Acreus has been good here and there if you've got the right combos and stuff, But you know what everybody has? Not Acreus, not Leviathan's Breath. You know what everybody does have? Thunderlord. Literally like one of the most versatile weapons in the game, and everybody's got it. Not everybody's got Div, but everybody's got Thunderlord. It's a great... I mean, it's good. I like that they do that kind of thing. Don't get me started on Thunderlord. I am a little curious on your thoughts on it. Holy Ben. I think it's good because it's in like the most perfect state right now. It's very powerful, but it's not the most powerful, not by a long shot. So if you are an experienced player and you play the game a lot, or even if you just play the game more than a casual player, you probably have something better than Thunderlord. Especially the more you play, you definitely have something way better. You probably have the most meta thing to use. But a new player can still participate. Now, will you one phase if everybody's using Thunderlord? Probably not. Most bosses, you will 2 or 3 phase with Thunderlord. Usually 2 phase, right? These days. But you will at least usually how it goes is you have like a few less experienced players and a few more experienced players in the average LFG. So some people are using Thunderlord, but other people are carrying with the good damage from the good weapons, And I think that's fine because the Thunderlord guys can still participate and still be part of it. And I think it's good. And you can feel good for doing the good damage numbers. There's no harm done. You're helping out more than they are, but they can still participate and not feel like complete and utter garbage, I think it's good. Thunderlord is in like the most perfect spot it's ever been, I really hope it doesn't change too much because that would be kind of sad, honestly. If you use that excuse to do lazy damage, and see that is the thing, I think there might be some people out there who are like, well, why would I ever grind for anything else if Thunderlord does everything fine? And I don't know. I think that's a bit annoying. That's for sure. If you do more damage, then use something better. Slow, lazy players using the gun doesn't tick me the right way. I guess that's just my way of thinking, especially IRL, because I hate people who don't put in a lot of effort, especially in the gym. I get what you mean. I definitely get frustrated by that too. I understand what you mean. I totally do. And I do agree. But I think it's, it's a microcosm of a greater, or it's not a necessary evil, but it's an inevitable evil that you can't really avoid, I think it's for the greater good, to have something that powerful in the hands of everybody, right? I think it's a good option to have that. So yeah, I mean, okay, think of it like, what's a good example? What's something that every person on the planet should have? Oh yeah, like let's just say like oxygen, right? I think like everybody on the planet should have oxygen. Now, are there some people that I really dislike? Yes. And is it kind of frustrating that they also have oxygen? Yeah. Because, I kind of wish they didn't sometimes, I think we all feel that way about certain people on this planet. But should that be a reason that, oxygen should be like harder to get? Or that only certain people should have oxygen? I don't think so. I think it's more like, And I mean, I guess if you want a less extreme example, you could say like clean water, let's say, you know, or something like that. There's no way in the history of all of history you decide to wake up and be lazy, then choose to be lazy in a video game. It's also good because some people are just bad at games. Sometimes, I mean, okay, this is the stereotype. Sometimes, and I say this as somebody who played a lot of this character in Overwatch. Sometimes the Mercy player on your team is just going to be the DPS player's girlfriend. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're just trying to get your girlfriend to play the game with you, and you need something that she can do. You know? And I say that's like a very, seemingly sexist thing. Genuinely, on average, there are more guys that play video games than girls, right? So when you get a girlfriend and she doesn't play video games, big surprise, like you need a way to connect with your hobby, right? And getting her to do the easy thing while you do the hard thing is good. It works, She can feel like she's participating in a helpful way because she is. But is what she's doing more difficult than what you're doing? No, right? Now, that's a very typical microcosm of... I keep using that word, dude, microcosm. I'm way too proud of myself for that. That's like a small part of a greater whole. Now, is Mercy just a good character in Overwatch in general? Yeah, she kind of has been like a staple since the start, right? For example, right? And is she exclusively played by the girlfriends of real gamers? No, not by a long shot. But there's like a lot of like overlap, right? There's a lot of overlap. And I say that as somebody who mained Mercy. I had like 200 hours in Mercy on PC alone. That was after I played on console. So, take that how you will. Let's see. Let me catch up. You can't proc bait and switch or press Izzy reload. Shoot, you're heavy. Like my girl. I don't know what that means. Mugs me sometimes when it comes to playing. I'm so glad she's also naturally good at games like me. Only reason she hasn't played D2 is because I feel like if the game is going to perish soon. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's in a pretty volatile state right now. It's kind of iffy. And it's kind of just a tough time to get back into the game. See, here's the thing. Destiny's in a really good state overall. It's in a really, really good state right now. A lot of good is happening in the game constantly. I mean, before all the layoff stuff happened, they were making so many good announcements about big changes. All these huge changes, a bunch of quality of life stuff. Everybody's hyped for the final shape. And then the layoff stuff happened. Like, it was frustrating to see, right? But overall, things have been good in the game itself. That being said, is it really a good time to come into the game as a new player? Not by a long shot. You try to come into this game and understand what the hell is going on, you're going to be so confused, dude. There's so many missing plot points. I mean, the fact that I still don't even really know what happened during the Warmind and Osiris campaigns, like, I never played those. I just don't really know what happened. I vaguely understand. I've heard references to it. I've seen little bits in lore. I really don't know what the hell happened. It's so bizarre, dude. So imagine trying to come back in when they've even removed the Forsaken campaign, which is one of the few ones that I actually did play. Like, I don't know. It's not a good time to come in as an outsider. If you've never played any Destiny 1 before, if you've never played any Destiny 2 before, it's not a very good welcoming game. And on top of all of that, Destiny has never been super welcoming to new players because there's a lot to catch up on, especially the more that gets released at a time. That's the one positive of the seasonal model, is that everything resets each season, kind of. Especially each expansion, things kind of reset. And that's what Bungie's counting on, is If you want to come back and replay, you can just play the latest season, and you'll be caught up with everybody else. You'll be doing the latest stuff with everyone else. But you're missing so much of the story stuff. So it's kind of this backfire of their plan to make it consistently open to everybody. It's tough. I don't know. It's in such a weird place right now. You know? Ugh. Is what we're left with. Wrong place, wrong time. Is what she said to me. I don't know. I think that there's a lot in Destiny that is easy, but it's the good kind of easy. I think it's the open kind of easy. And I think there's difficulty to be had. I do wish Bungie would push it a bit more. I mean, Dado has been an advocate of it for a long time now. More difficulty in the game. I think most people want more difficulty in the game. And I think it was frustrating to see, you know, and everybody talked about this. This is the one thing everybody's commented on. Why the hell was the Lightfall campaign actually such a high difficulty? And patrolling on Neomuna, even right now, is like kind of annoyingly hard. So unnecessarily that all the new players are like, what the hell? I can't even kill anything here. Right? Meanwhile, Root of Nightmares comes out, the raid from the same expansion, and it's literally the easiest raid they've put out in like 5 years. Like, what? Like, I mean, it's insane. I mean, everybody who's made a criticism of Lightfall as a whole has brought this up. That's how big of a thing this is. Like, difficulty in the game is good. We want difficulty in the game. And we want some content to be easy. So why the hell is the end game content easy, but the, you know, the entry level content, why is that hard? Patrols are supposed to be the easy thing that you just do to relax, or you do as a new player to level up initially. You know, it's supposed to be the easy stuff, the fun, casual stuff, right? That's what patrols are. Instead, Neomuna, the patrols, are a nightmare. It's like there's barely a difference when you hop into a lost sector. And then when you do hop into a lost sector, it's even harder. What the hell's going on Neomuna, man? And they haven't changed it. They like the way it is. They like that difficulty for some reason. Bungie is like happy about how that turned out. And everybody else is like, what the hell? You should have made the raid harder. If you're going to make that as so hard, then why didn't you make the raid this hard? Then they released the dungeon, and it's like, okay, let's give the dungeon bosses like the highest health pools possible. And it's like, awesome. This is actually difficult. It's annoying. It's a little frustrating because the rest of the dungeon's kind of easy. It's just the health on the health bars on the bosses are ridiculously high. And higher than Nezarec's health in Root of Nightmares. I mean, it's crazy, dude. There's such a disparity in where the difficulty should be. And then Crota comes out, and I feel like Crota is just super rounded. All of the damage numbers, all of the difficulty levels, everything is pretty much how it should be. It's weird. I don't think I have any complaints about the Crota difficulty. I was upset I didn't get day one. I mean, I got the day one completion, but I didn't get challenge mode. I wish I did. I wish I did, but, you know, it is what it is, right? I don't know. It's bizarre to me there's this big disparity. But I have always liked Destiny for that reason, because you can even do some endgame content with somebody who's either very bad at the game or somebody who's brand new. You can do some endgame content and have it not be too bad. You know? Now, I wish there were more options. I'm kind of looking forward to the support rifles and having the, like, the healing abilities from those and stuff like that. Stuff like heal clip is interesting. I want more of that. I want some more healing options that you can use on teammates instead of just having healing grenades just on Solar and having healing rifts, and that's it. Like you got you got rifts, and you've got Lumina, and you've got healing nades. And then for healing yourself, you've also got Suros and Crimson, and a few other things here and there that heal you, like Unrelenting, and that one origin trait from Root of Nightmares, I think, does it too. Or not Root of Nightmares, Vow of the Disciple does it. And like one or two other miscellaneous things, I think. And then you could say that like overshields are kind of a form of healing, which is fair. You know, I think there's an argument to be made there. But I want more. I think we want more stuff. You know what I think is great? Yelena, you tell me what you think about this. I love Banner of War. And let me explain why. I love Banner of War on Strand Titan because finally there is a form of healing that is long lasting, that is significant enough to keep the team alive, that is not well. And the new Hunter subclass that is coming for Arc, it is going to provide a damage boost on a cooldown that is not a super. And I think it's a substantial cooldown. I could be wrong. I am looking forward to that because, again, it is a damage boost. It is a buff to the team that is not well. And I think that's awesome. I'm excited for things like that. Because for a long time, Warlocks have been stuck running well 24/7. PvE, PvP, doesn't matter. Well is just the best subclass in every way. And it's kind of cool to see that they're turning it around, you know? And in fact, the Solar subclass from Warlock that they're adding, the new one that's supposed to be like similar to the old one in Destiny 1, it's nice because it's going to buff your teammates in a way that Well doesn't do. So, like, it might actually be worth running it instead of Well. Now, is Well going to be the easiest option? Yeah. All the baby mode people, all of the, the gamer girlfriends, that I was stereotyping before, they can run Well. Sure, that's fine. But everybody else, maybe it'll be more viable to run, like, a Bubble Titan for the damage buff, and then, like, I don't know, like, the healing from Banner of War. Do a full Titan run or something. I don't know. Maybe that's what the pros are going to use. And I like that. I like that there's going to be some variety instead of just everybody using the same thing, It'll be the same thing as the Thunderlord situation, where Thunderlord is viable in the same way that Well is viable. But maybe there are going to be options that are better that, maybe take a bit more skill to use, or you have to have a proper build for it at the very least, or the right exotic equipped or something to make it more worthwhile, I mean, there's even some of that right now with just like Lumina. Like Lumina is such a great damage boost, but like you never see that in low-end content. You never see, well, not in low-end content. You never see that from like low-end players, right? New people, people who are less skilled at the game. They always just run Well and leave it at that. Nobody runs Lumina. But the top tier people, they do. Because it's a better damage boost, Banner of War is sick. I generally like the concept of it. It literally, the principle of a Titan, like there's nothing more close to the class than that ability in Bubble or Striker as well. Things that it does healing and melee damage. So cool to me. I think it's great. I really do. I also, what's up, Kuriyami? Welcome. Quick tangent, Kuriyami. Why does it always say that you are watching without sound? It has like this little notification thing next to your name. It says watching without audio. I don't have subtitles. How the hell are you doing that? Just curious. It might just be a weird bug, too. We were talking about Destiny stuff. I've been in the tower for 3 hours, running around and just talking about state of the game. So, you're not watching without sound? Weird, dude. I don't know why it has that little badge next to it then. It's very interesting. But yeah, we're just talking about the game. All the good things, all the bad things. I don't know. It's just we've talked about just about everything at this point. And there's still more to talk about, I feel. It's I don't know. I like that they do that though. I like that like it's optimal to not to use like for simple examples, it's better to use Leviathan's Breath. It's better to use Lumina. But generally running well, and it's better to use Tractor Cannon. But using a well and a tether is easier and more accessible than using Tractor Cannon and Lumina. Using Leviathan's Breath is less accessible than using Thunderlord. And yet, using Thunderlord in a well on a tethered boss, anybody can do that. A starting player can do that. As long as they're playing with other people. They can do all those things, right? Whereas, the other ones, you got to play the game for a bit. But it's more rewarding because Tractor has a better debuff than Tether does. Lumina has a better buff than Well does. And, of course, Leviathan's Breath does a lot more damage than Thunderlord does. But they all work. I think it's kind of understated how good of a job Bungie does at stuff like that. Where they make the game hard, but then they provide you with ways to make it easier. And they make some of the things that make it easier, they make them skill-based, and they make other things just rare drops, or at least more difficult to earn. It's I think it's good. I think it's worthwhile to have that kind of thing where, yes, like, okay, again, going back to the Overwatch example, stereotype bad player playing Mercy. Well, at least you've got a healer on your team, right? Now, is it going to be as good as whatever the most meta healer is at the time? Probably not. Mercy was meta for a good little while just because I think Blizzard knew that if they ever nerfed Mercy, that half of the healers in the game would would drop the rank so far. We doing any raids tonight? I don't think so. Not at this point. I've just been rambling here in the tower this whole time, so just gonna be doing this. But like, you could always run a Mercy and be fine. And as long as everything else went well on the team, then, you would have the healing you needed, right? It wasn't the best healing. It could have been better. And in fact, if you played a different healer, then you could probably be getting kills and healing just as much as the Mercy would. But it would take more skill. It would take more effort. You'd have to be better at it. You'd have to understand the other character better, right? At least theoretically, right? Maybe that wasn't the case. But it was cool. It was cool that you could play. Like, I would play Overwatch with friends who were not as good as I was. And I would play Overwatch with friends that were way better than I was. And it was cool because we could all play on a team and feel like we participated. And that was nice. Now, there would be some points where I'd play competitive and I would feel like the people worse than me are dragging me down. And the only people helping me out are the people better than me. And that was not as good. But I think Bungie does a good job of balancing that feel, of like trying to get the game into a state of being playable for everybody. I think Bungie generally does a good job. And it's a little frustrating when they mess that up, like with what they did for Lightfall, right? I think again that's a great example of how they royally screwed up. They made patrolling difficult and they made raiding easy. Not a single endgame player wants to have a hard time patrolling on Neomuna, and all of the new players don't want to have a miserable experience patrolling. It's supposed to be the easy thing. And then raiding? No endgame player wants to have an easy time raiding. We want it to be harder. And then even new players, like maybe that's the one benefit, is that new players and less skilled, less experienced players, maybe, they get to enjoy doing a day one. Like, that's cool. I'm happy for them. But, it's at the expense of everybody else being able to enjoy the raid. And once they become better at the game, or once they become more experienced, they start to realize, okay, this raid kind of sucks because it's not as hard as the other ones. And there's joy to be had in overcoming an obstacle, So I think everybody benefits from things being harder, but not everything needs to be hard in the game. And it's this weird mixed priority. I don't understand why they made the patrol harder than the raid. It just doesn't make any damn sense. It's so bizarre, dude. Like, don't get me wrong. I was so happy for my friends who I did day one with. The most satisfying day one completion I ever had was Vault of Glass. I did day one Vault of Glass in Destiny 2, and it was really hard, but we got it, and I was really proud of it, because we only had 24 hours, and we had to do contest mode and challenge mode, because it was the first reprise raid, so they added contest mode for the first time, and it was only 24 hours, because this was before WoW, and it was hard, dude. It was so hard, and we barely got it with like 12 minutes left or something crazy. Right? We were all so proud of that. And I'm still super proud of that. Since then, I've had a few, like, completions of other raids, but they've all been within the 48-hour period, which I think is still really cool, but it feels a little worse. And I don't like it as much now because I felt like both Crota's End and King's Fall were 48 hours. And in order to make it harder for the 48-hour period, or in order to make it more worthwhile for the 48-hour period, I think Bungie made both of them harder than they needed to be. If they made it 24 hours, but then, didn't have it as hard, I feel like it would have been a better experience. I don't know. I'm a little frustrated just because I didn't get either of those as the contest mode. Because, you have to not only complete it on normal, but then you also have to complete contests. I think that part of it is not. I think completing challenge mode, that's not inherently the problem. I think the problem is the difficulty at its core was like a little too ramped up, right? And I felt like I should have been able to do those, and I didn't happen to get either one, and I was pretty upset. I didn't even get the contest mode completion for King's Fall. I was so upset about that one. It was such a sad experience. I couldn't even just beat Oryx. And to this day, I'm really sad about that, Now, I say to this day, I'm really sad about it. I think I'm over it now. But, like, it was frustrating, to have that happen. I don't know. It's kind of a mixed result. I feel like one of the best day ones we've had was Vault of Glass. I think it was the right level of difficulty. I think it was the right level of contest. And maybe I'm just saying that because it's the only one I did challenge mode on, And VOW, VOW was a bit weird because it was 48 hours, but, there's the whole controversy of it was supposed to be 24 hours, but then the servers were so bad that it ended up being 48. And I ended up doing it on day 2, which made it really controversial for my completion because then, like, people are like, well, if you did it on day 2, you didn't really earn it. Even though I literally, like, I was like, okay, they've announced it's going to be available for another 24 hours. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to go to bed. I'll wake up and I'll keep grinding. And then I did. And I'm pretty sure if I had just not gone to bed and I had just gone through, if you cut out all the time in between my 2 runs, you know, my first half of VOW and my second half of VOW, if you splice those together, it probably would have been within the 24-hour limit. But I had that gap in between where I slept. And, you know, that is so controversial to some people. I don't know. It all gets complicated at that point. And then King's Fall, I think I was just less prepared than I thought I would be. And I got into it thinking we would breeze through and it wouldn't be hard. And then it was really hard. And I don't know. Then I got depressed after that. And then Root of Nightmares comes out, and it's the easiest raid. I prepped so hard for it, got all my friends together, and it was the easiest raid, dude. It was, I swear, it was so easy. And I was happy that, because all of the people in my group, it was their first time doing a day 1 raid completed. Like, they'd done them before, but it was their first time getting one. And I was happy for them, because I had done Vault of Glass and Vow of the Disciple. Now, again, Vow I did on day 2. But, you know, I at least did Vault of Glass. And I was really happy that they could experience what I had experienced before. But then it kind of dawned on us, like, that really didn't take us very long. And then over time, everybody got day 1 on Root of Nightmares. It's like, okay, well, that's a little less special. And then eventually it's like, oh, well, it's also just, after it got released, it's just the easiest raid ever. I don't know. I feel like the difficulty is just so misplaced. I kind of wish, like, I like the idea of challenge mode and contest mode. I'm okay with them giving us an extra 48 hours to get the challenge mode version done, but I kind of wish they wouldn't ramp up the difficulty so unnecessarily. You know? I feel like the time extension is for the sake of having 2 completions required, right? The time extension is not there to also increase the difficulty more than it should be. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. It feels like a bit much. Like, I feel like I had no issues with the difficulty of all the other raids. Vow was fine. Vogue was fine. Root of Nightmares was too easy. Crota was fine. Well, no, sorry, not Crota. But, like, Crota and King's Fall just felt, I don't know, they both felt like they were too hard, but I don't know. Again, maybe I'm just upset because those were the only 2 that I didn't get so far. I don't know. I feel like I'm running out of things to talk about. And I don't know if anybody's even watching anymore. I think we're hitting that point. It is getting late. What is it? Yeah, it's almost midnight now. Man, I was sitting here the whole time thinking that I had the day off tomorrow. I don't know why I thought that. Yeah, today's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Friday the 10th. I could stay up late tonight and because I work in the evening tomorrow. I could also try to wake up in the morning. I don't know if I will wake up early enough. I don't want to make any promises on that. Here's what we'll do. I don't know. What should we do? I think I'm debating on whether I should end stream for now and stream in the morning if I wake up in time. I say in time. I'll probably wake up in time, but it's just a matter of will I start streaming time. I just know my morning streams don't do as well, but it's also getting late enough that people probably aren't going to be here for this stream anyway. I think we'll wrap things up for tonight. I had a good time, actually. I enjoyed this. I think we talked about a lot of big stuff in the game. It's all, just stuff about Destiny. And I planned on actually playing the game. But if I'm being honest, I was kind of hesitant to play. I kind of wanted to get back to my Blender learning, I was really considering playing learning, continuing my Blender tutorial. I was really considering just not playing Destiny today. And I kind of got in between, and I like how things turned out today. I'm okay with having spent just all this time just talking, I like this. Just running around the tower, talking to chat. I'm not going to do this all the time, of course. I think it's just fun to do every once in a while. So I might be live tomorrow in the morning. And then maybe again the day after. It's just I work in the evening. So I don't know. I work like 3:30 to 9 is when I'm going to be working. So it's like it's a little weird to work with stream, because I usually like to stream in the afternoons and evenings, but then like I'm less available around those times. I don't know. We'll see what we can do. For now, I'm gonna end stream. I'll go to bed. Let's get an outro song for the night. So I might stream in the morning tomorrow, or I might just not, and then I don't know. Maybe I'll stream after work, like way late at night, like at like 9:30 or 10 or something like that. But I don't know. We'll see. Because I mean, if I'm working evening tomorrow and the day after, then I could actually stay up late. But I also don't want to mess up my sleep schedule too much. I don't know. It's all complicated. I'll just have to kind of decide. Either way, let's get the outro going. We heard "Heart in My Car" as our intro song today for summer. It's a song by Summer Salt. It's like, play on words, summer salt, but just the two separate words, summer and salt. We heard their song "Heart in My Car" as the intro, and now we're going to hear "Time Away from Home." That'll be the outro. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow. I'd like to see you guys tomorrow, but we'll have to see how it goes. I'd love to see you guys every day, if I'm being honest, but, I got to go to work and stuff. So either way, I'll see you. This is Time Away from Home. Bye.